Welcome here, everyone. Welcome to yet another night of the ACL here with Esports, and I'm very excited to dive in to the winners finals that I know everyone has been very excited to look forward to. Now, of course, the desk was a little bit different this time around. I'm joining up from the ADL. My name is Orbital. We got Sneezes here to break down all the action before, during, and after. Well, maybe before and after, as we got two lovely casters that we'll introduce a little bit later on. But we have an amazing match between Milk Esports and Conviction coming up for your viewing pleasure. Once again, they are fighting in the upper bracket finals to get a nice long break before they face off in the grand. Sneezes, how you doing today?
I'm great, Orbital. Great to be here. You guys can tell I'm actually retired from coaching because all my hair is growing back. So
yeah, let's go.
I'm
Congratulations.
not bald anymore, so I'm washed, I'm cooked. But we got a really awesome match today. My what I'm looking at is the bot lane. I think Levitate Manui are really aggressive. These guys want to fight in lane. They want to hit level 2. They want to like fist fight really hard. And so I'm interested to see how Meech Duo King do and how that bot lane plays out.
Yeah, now there's a name in there that you might not recognize, so let's go ahead and bring up the roster for Conviction. There have been a couple substitutions here that might adjust how we actually take a look at things. So Duo King is coming in at that support, so Zyko is out. Now Duo King obviously being one listed, however, it's Tomio, Young, and Meech there in their primary roles. For Tenacity, though, they are unfortunately out for the day, which means Conviction actually brought in the likes of Sniper to hop in as an ESA, which does mean Conviction will be losing out on, I believe, their first ban.
Yeah, and Sniper is a really interesting ESA because Tenacity is quite good as well, but it's the wide variety of champions, right? I think Sniper has a champion pool that a lot of players in ACL don't. It'll be really interesting to see if they're drafting around him or if he's just gonna sit there and let the rest of the team win.
Well, it'll be interesting to see. And of course, we all know substitutions and e-substitutions can cause a lot of chaos, but these are all the top of the top. So let's see if they can pull off the pinnacle of performance. Looking on the other side, though, we got Milk Esports. Big shout out to them. They just opened up, I believe, their combine information for January, which is awesome, by the way. I just wanted to talk about that one for a bit. But we got Hoarder, Kizno, 5 Mini, Levitate, and Manui. These are all names that you do know and love, and they'll be rocking out to see if they can take this Bo5 series.
Yeah, Hoarder and 5 Mini are like two of the rising stars of NACL. I think we're going to see a lot of them in 2026. And then you have a really interesting bot lane, as I mentioned earlier. Levitate Manui. Levitate's very aggressive. He's gonna fight early. And I'm just reading chat. I'm hearing that it looks like, at least in this game, I can't confirm the rest of the series, but Toasty is going to be in for Levitate. So maybe some mages, maybe some interesting picks in the bot lane here for Milk. So totally different setup. I'd love to see some double mages because I know Manui can play the mages too.
That's the terrifying thing. We've seen double mages be very, very prominent when you're looking for that push factor, you're looking for that mid to late game kind of action there. A lot of mages do scale very well. I do agree with Toasty coming in. I'll be interested to see exactly how their champ pool synergizes well and if Milk Esports can make it work. Now, of course, as you were talking about with the current setup, it is going to be very interesting to watch the spot lane and see if they actually draft in a convenient way that lends itself, because now both bot lanes do have a substitute in, both currently listed as on their sub rosters, I believe. So it'll be interesting to see all the way through. However, I'm sure the teams are more than excited to actually dive on in for this one, and hopefully they're ready in the draft just as well. My eyes are drawn to what they're looking to ban here, especially in full fearless, and with some of these substitutions, maybe you're angling more towards those primary substitutes that are coming in instead of the overall meta that we've obviously seen churning out over the last few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely attack the substitutes. Whether it's an upgrade or a downgrade, we can debate, given the position. But I would think about attacking the substitutes. The interesting thing about the meta right now, I don't know if you've been watching Kespa or any of the stuff going on. There's a lot of weird junglers that are getting played, right? Like Aatrox, Kiana, Jace, and Bessa is a jungler. Sejuani's a top laner again. So it'll be really interesting to see what the jungle picks look like in this BO5.
I mean, that's also in smattering with regards to the Zinzao and the Wukong, the standards that we've seen played, I think, throughout the entirety of the season. So I 100% agree, depending on how teams have actively looked at this next update and said, hey, especially before the big changes coming in the new season, we got to go ahead, find all the marks, and kind of make our way through the bracket. I 100% agree with you on that point. Of course, you're also looking at that top side, as you said, that says Juani now rolling up into that top side, also the Rek'Sai. We've seen drafted in a few different circumstances there. We've seen the rise back of some more interesting ones, just general bruisers. The Scion, the Cassante, Rumble has been primary for some players as well. Depending on where you get that in the draft, can be a very powerful game changer.
Yeah, and if you're looking at the Rumble, I think look for Galio bands, right? If you're watching at home, if you start seeing Galio bands, especially the first three, that tells me there's a Rumble that's probably going to come out. Another thing for the series that's interesting. I'm just looking at the roster sheet. Conviction is working with Argentum Sky this time around. Argentum did a really nice job this split in NACL with Conviction, and so I don't know how involved he is. Right, these fall winter leagues kind of have up and down attendance. We're seeing subs today, but I'm really interested to see if Conviction comes out with a really solid game plan, because that was one thing that I thought Argentum did a really nice job of all year in NACL. They were probably, we were on blue. We had a good run, but I think from a game planning perspective, they were one of the few teams that challenged us every time we had to line up against them. So I'm hoping to see some good planning here from that staff.
Ooh, I like it. I like it. Bringing some insider knowledge. It feels like it's just a little background, which I do appreciate. I mean, when you look at both of these squads, it is interesting to see the coaching staff rising behind them. And there's a reason why coaching staff is so important. Obviously, you come from that background as well. What are you hoping to see from these squads, especially since this is the winners finals? They do have another chance in the lower bracket, but are you hoping for some of that adjustability, that flexibility in there, especially with some of these substitutes that may or may not be rounded out through the entire rest of the series? Or are you looking more just for that stock standard? Are they going to be sent to a much more comfortable position of just play comfort, do what you need to, and we play our same game style even if we have those substitutes in?
Yeah, I think for Conviction, it's going to be the top side, right? Especially with Sniper, and he's all those interesting picks. Tomio is an excellent jungler, at every aspect of the game, from pathing, ganking, setting his lanes up for success. So I'm looking for the top three there, Sniper, Tomio, Young to have really strong series. And then looking at the Milk Esports side, I'm just interested to see what they're going to pick in the bot lane with Toasty Alex Manui. Maybe Manui plays some ADCs. I know Manui has played a little ADC, he's played a little top lane, one of the most versatile players in tier 2. So it'll be, I think it's one of those things where you just throw the plane out the window and you play what, the angles you get. And, if you're better on the day, you win, right?
I mean, that's what you hope to see as well. And as the teams are lining up, hopefully the day is going well for them, as I believe they're taking just a little bit more time to make sure they are set to go. With that being said, we're going to go to a very, very short break. When we come back, we should have draft for game number 1 for your viewing pleasure, and we'll be able to dive into the series as a whole. So please don't go anywhere. The ACL will continue in just a bit. We'll see you on the other side. We have found our way into the draft, and immediately we get to see the top ADC ban. As you were mentioning, the bot side will be very contested here, Sneezes, and it makes sense. Again, with Toasty Alex coming in here as sub ADC for Milk Esports, and then for Conviction, Duo King subbing in as well. Maybe you just don't want to deal with the top priority. Both of these actually are going to be banned out. Yunara top in the bot lane, and then of course the Rumble in the top side.
Yeah, so far pretty standard. Yunara and Rumble both the top picked in their role in the I was going to say Demacia Cup, but it wasn't that. It was what, Kespa a couple weeks ago. And then Akali is very interesting. I wonder if that's a Toasty ban. Or do I have it backwards? No, I do.
You might have it backwards. Toasty is looking to play on Milk
Toasty's on Milk.
Side,
yeah, sorry. Too many. You guys get your whole roster has to show up. I can't keep it straight. Timo. Okay, we're having fun. We're having fun.
Yeah.
That might be CNV's. Yeah, they're fake bands. So yeah.
Yeah, so I think they forgot afterwards, and yeah, so they actually lose quite a few here. Because of the system in place, they are losing a couple, and I'm sure this was decided beforehand. So let's look at the Wukong ban on the other side as well. Milk Esports have very much focus outside of that mid lane, it feels like. Well, the Akali makes sense, of course, over towards Young, but the Azir first pickup here, drafting a very comfortable pickup for 5 mini here in game 1.
Yeah, I like it a lot. 5 mini's best champ. One of the strongest mids. You know, it's kind of been Talia Rise Azir for the last few months. We'll see what they come back with. I kind of like Poppy. I don't love, Poppy with just Azir face up isn't quite enough, but like Talia Poppy, maybe. Yeah, the Ori another strong. So Azir off the board, you can go Ori. You don't have to worry about the Rise or the Anivia. I think they go jungle here. I think it's gonna be Ori and Xin or Kiana. See if you just go like classic pairing. It's early and fearless. We're just shaving off priority list, right? Like game 1 is gonna be the most standard. The Aatrox, yeah, same deal. So game 1's gonna be the most standard. We'll get the interesting drafts in like game 3 and 4 if we get that far.
Yeah. But I mean, even when you look at what we call unconventional, it's not outside the meta range either. Unless we get to that game 5 where things kind of all kick off, I wouldn't really be worried about that. But of course, the Aatrox can be considered a flex. You mentioned it before that the Aatrox can be played in the jungle role, which is actually what we're looking at. Primarily, you go ahead, lean into it. It might not be the best shockwave setup though. So I do wonder if they're looking for a bit harder engage, whether in that support or in the other solo role there. Looking for Milk Esports, what do you want to pair with the Azir now that you know the Aatrox is in that corner right now? Big eyes for me. How do you gather a stronger opposition, or are you going for a little bit more punishing in there in that jungle role? You're looking at that Aatrox and saying, hey, maybe we can out damage it. That's not really feasible. Maybe you go for a CC value instead.
Yeah, I would have liked the Wukong. Wukong's out. If you want to go full dive, you can go Kiana or Nocturne. Trundle's still solid here. Orianna is really vulnerable to those displacements and walls, and Azir Trundle's like an okay pairing. It's fine. Yeah, it'll be interesting. Maybe they just slam Jarvan. It's we'll see. Are we what's up with draft? We're like ticking on time. I think we're
listen. We just we wanted the milk to spoil.
We're really thinking.
So we wanted the milk to spoil, so we're giving it more time. That's all it really is at the end.
Okay, gotcha. So,
we really got to make sure to spoil everything, and we're gonna slam like 4 picks at once.
I'm just like coach brained right now. I'm used to like 30 seconds a pick, where you're all talking over each other and figuring out what's getting picked. So
I do have to ask: have you ever gotten down to like the 5-second ticker and being like, guys, we haven't decided on a champion. Like we got to grab a champion ASAP, or things go wrong.
Single time, dude. I'm telling you, the more the series is on the line, the more sweaty it is. Like do you know how fast the coaches have gotten in all the NACL and probably tier 1 too have gotten at clicking just to lock in picks, because players can't decide stuff. Like it's like,
or they're talking about something else, right? They're like, we
usually not on match day. Usually we're pretty buttoned up on match day. Like and if you are like the teams I've been on where there's a lot of chatter and champ select and we're not actually getting the real discussion on picks, you usually don't do very well. So yeah, the Scion, not sure what this is. It looks like I'm seeing in chat B2 Mbessa. Yeah, so we're just seeing the full like new meta junglers, like the new hotness junglers. Mbessa, Scion, Azir, really interesting. These champs got jungle specific buffs, and so they just like eat the jungle. It's it's really like a clear speed thing. And so, a lot of go button for Milk. I really like the multiple engages into immobile Oriana, and then Riven coming out. So I think Sion's gonna have a tough lane, but hey, we can still swap. We have a lot of things we can do. But yeah, just going comfort for CNV.
And especially for a top side matchup like this, with Sniper coming in, you do need a very comfortable start to the series as well. When you know a lot of the power picks are on the table, especially because you lost 2 bans, you have to immediately assume that you need these prios to come in here. So it makes a lot of sense. It's also into, I would say, an okay composition for it. There is mobility in the Mbessa and that Azir, but it still can reach within there. You're not looking at an Ezreal, not looking at something that has that flash to get away. There are ways that you can catch upon them. But now we're focused on that bottom side. The Yunara was banned out first. We did see the Misfortune just banned, and now it's the Kaisa being hit. Triple ADC so far off that table.
Yeah, I think both comps are a little short range. I know we have Azir Ori, but ADC getting dropped so far is really interesting. I'm interested to see what CNV wants to pick on 4. I'm curious if they're going to go blind support, the Nico or the Bard. Bard is in pretty high prio. I know like Alistar, Rakan are the most guaranteed invades or engage, excuse me. But okay, Bard ban, really interesting. I have no idea what CNV wants. Maybe it's just Rel. Maybe they just want, a way to create fights. And to your point, Orbital, give Oriana someone to throw the ball on.
Yeah, I think the Bard is also just a good door stopper. As soon as you see kind of the shockwave coming in, it can be used to kind of slow down everything, give themselves a second, a 2-second window to maybe try and bank a way out. At the same time, though, I gotta agree, it doesn't really show exactly what CMV want to go for here in the bot side, which is maybe why Milk is taking a little bit longer as well. They're going to ban the Alistar instead, one of those go buttons. Still, there's a Nautilus, there's the Thresh if you really got to dig deep. As you mentioned, the Rel is still a very high priority in there, I do agree, but with an ADC hidden as well, I am curious if they're looking to pivot a little bit more, but it has to be blind. Either the ADC or support has to be blind here for conviction.
Yeah, I'm thinking Corki, but Ashe maybe here is what they're hovering. More go button, more engage. I don't love it because Silas is up, but I guess they've already picked their full top side. So if you're gonna pick Ashe with Silas up, now it's like the good time because no one's gonna play Silas support. I mean, they might, but unlikely.
Unless you toss like a Scion support, if you really want to go solo Q-esque on it, that would be the only way to do it. And even then, probably wouldn't work. The Jhin though, to rock out,
Ashe Jhin trade, yeah. This is just like range for range, right? I think both teams are trying to match range. The early compositions were really short range. I'm curious if this is Nico for Milk, because double range with Jhin is quite strong. You want to deny the double range Ashe. Ashe was like the premier double range bot lane like a year or 2 ago. So yeah, I'm with all these engage bans, I'm wondering if they just go the Nico, but it looks like Nautilus. So
I do wonder if the Nico, I feel like if you're going to grab Nico, it's going to be in the first round. And since it's dropped so far in priority, I do wonder if both teams are holding it in pocket for game 2 and 3. Like whenever we see Nico contested that heavily, to me it always shows in like pick 2 or 3 for either team, and it's always comboed with 2 other pieces behind. So it would be interesting if they go in Nico late so far here. And also I hope they have more quickness to get in. I am a little bit worried. Hey, I like it. Okay, listen,
let's try
if you want to get silly and say we can't reach you, you're coming to us, you know what, I can dig it.
No, I like it. They're kind of seeding lane, but that's totally fine. It's basically, you're trusting your top side, the Aatrox Riven, to really pop off, and you're just counting on going even enough with Jhin, Nautilus, that you can have an impact in those team fights. So yeah, this will be a fun one.
I know, and listen, we want to talk so much about this, but we have 2 amazing voices to go ahead and join us here to actually cover the game. And we made you wait long enough. The Milk is not spoiled just yet, but it's getting pretty dang close to its expiration date. So let's see if Conviction can go ahead and turn this game 1 over towards themselves. We'll pass it over to Gordo and Jack on the broadcast desk.
Thank you very much, Orbital, and hello, everybody. Welcome to another night of ACL, and perhaps our grandest one yet. It is the winners side finals between Milk Esports and Conviction, and we've got some special new players taking to the Rift here. Most notably, Jack, it's Sniper Riven for game number 1. I mean, how can you market the league any better than that?
I know. I mean, we did have some bit of a wait there, but this is what that reward is. You know, patience is a virtue. So you get into game 1, the sub you didn't even know we're going to have on their signature champ, 2 brand new junglers. We have a action-packed bottom lane, and that really does go away, seeing as the first 2 picks were the 2 most common mid laners we usually see. So subverted my expectations a bit, and to point out this obvious Riven for Sniper here, I feel like when you're coming in as an E-sub, it's like, yeah, you know, I want to, you know, warm up into the series. I want to take it seriously. And for most players, a warm-up would be like a very simple champion to play. But for Sniper, this is a champ the guy can play with his eyes closed into any matchup. So happy to see that right off the bat.
Yeah, that's going to make this a pretty interesting matchup all in all. You know, Conviction's been a team that's had a little bit of a living roster, right? They've used their subs quite frequently. They've had a lot of different iterations of bottom lane. And top lane's kind of been a little bit of back and forth as well. They've kind of split time between Tenacity and Sunlight. And now bringing in Sniper is going to add to the differences here. A little bit of a 2023 100 Thieves throwback to have Sniper and Meech back on the same team once again. And then, of course, Milk coming in with Toasty off their bench as well. So not exactly the lineup that they've run the whole time to get here either. Been a lot of roster movement around our top teams this time around with all of the promotions and opportunities coming through for these players. And Conviction been some notable examples of that, having to swap in Tomio halfway through. But he's been making quite the name for himself so far. Meanwhile, Duo King gonna get hooked early on in this bottom lane, and Toasty's gonna find a real nice trade alongside Manui as the back of it.
Yeah, that does find the passive as well, so that means that next time that hook lands could be death. Very good trade found there by Manui, who I think when you're bringing in Toasty Alex, a mid laner coming down to the bottom lane, it is going to be invaluable having Manui there by their side. Playing bottom lane in the past, playing top lane even for a period of time here with Milk Esports. So don't have much fear on that bottom side. I do want to give a highlight to this mid lane matchup because with all the roster changes and subs, it's kind of fallen by the wayside. And Young is a mainstay in Tier 2, been around for a very long time, even has some Tier 1 experience. And Fi Mini has been a prospect that has like blown my expectations out of the water. I didn't really know much about it. Oh, never mind, wait, Hoarder. Take a lot of damage. Another fight bot lane.
Yeah, right. It's breaking out on both sides of the map here. Nearly a solo kill for Sniper, but Hoarder will be able to hang on. It's going to be Meech forced to use the barrier in that bottom lane exchange as Toasty and Manui find another good trade for themselves. And going to find no blood spilled quite yet, but real dangerous territory for Hoarder here, who's just trying his best to clear out these waves. Meanwhile, it looks like Tomio was able to snag a smite onto the Scuttle Crab on the bottom side, and now trying to cross map to get the double scuttle. Kisno, not wanting to give that up, is en route to try to contest here. He's going to try to fight in mid instead. Chunks out Young, forces him back underneath the turret. He can call over Fi Mini now to try to contest this topside scuttle, but they've got to be quick with it, and they're just not quick enough. Tomio takes the double scuttle.
Yeah, notably, Manui also roamed up to help secure that. That means that this bottom lane that was so dominant and aggressive, now having to cede that pressure was a CS advantage. Huge push is now going to turn into quite the advantage for Conviction's bottom lane. And Manui ended up walking all the way topside to see if he could help Hoarder just to take a back. So that's pretty devastating for the bottom lane of Milk Esports. And now, with all of our backs fully completed, I don't want to speak too soon, but Meech may be looking for that new Ashe build that we've been seeing. Is starting out with a lethality component there, so maybe we see that Axiom Arc build trying to fire out those enchanted crystal arrows as often as possible. And Jin seems to be going for the typical Yumu's start with all of this dive on their top side as well as Nautilus. I feel like having Jin just doing long range damage, one of the best things you can have on a team comp like this.
Yeah, that Rectrix gonna help him out in the laning phase, give you a little more harassment. It's gonna get matched by a Rectrix from Toasty as well. We see Sniper continuing to exert pressure on a Hoarder, but Hoarder absorbing it quite nicely on this Scion. Kind of become a signature pick for him in tier 2, but traditionally a player that I would think of as a lot more lane dominant and aggressive, and he still shows that side of himself from time to time. But I think the pick that has put him on the map more than anything in NACL has been this Scion play. It's his most played in this ACL run. It's been his most played in some of his more dominant NACL splits, and he's just really starting to make a name for himself here, trying to fill the spaces here for the next generation of top laners. Tomio arriving to bottom lane. Kizno is here as well. Nice buffer from Manui to get himself out of danger, but he's going to get engaged on by Tomio regardless. Kizno throws himself into the fight, trying to find the execute. Flash away from Tomio. Duo King going to be the next target. He has to flash away as well. Toasty Alex starting to pump in the damage. Runs out of ammo, though, as a fourth shot connects onto Meech, and nobody will drop, but Conviction with lower health bars have to seed the bottom lane.
It's an incredible hover by Kizno, understanding that regardless of the position, as we see Hoarder using that unstoppable onslaught, regardless of the position that Milk's bot lane had taken with the Blitzcrank, you have the constant threat of starting a fight. Hovers down towards the bot side, seeing Aatrox come down as well, and could have been a kill if it were just a little bit later in the game, but at this point, those cooldowns on Mbessa are quite long, so once you use that full rotation, nothing you have left to give over. And honestly, end of the day, I feel like that's not the worst thing in the world for Conviction. With this 2v2, you are very losing, so being able to kind of reset the lane state, get it back into your turret safely, force a reset on the other side, they can push this, try and push the next one, as we do see a lane swap coming out from Milk Esports. Without getting that first dragon, seems like the priority is going to be on Void Grubs. Don't want to team with Sniper Riven to get that objective.
So Sniper will take his back, now redeploying towards the bottom side, looking like Conviction are interested in this dragon as Tomio clears from top to bottom. Kizno in much of the same pattern here. You can clear so fast on these ex-top laners, now junglers, why they've become so much of the meta as of late, and you're going to see that in any kind of competitive play that you happen to be watching in this weird liminal space between seasons that we find ourselves in. It's just going to be the full lane swap here, as Sniper will be matched by Hoarder. They will continue to brawl against one another, and you know, with the items starting to come through, with the Scion starting to reach the point where he's a lot tougher to bully out, you feel like Hoarder's navigated this lane pretty well.
Absolutely. I had great hopes for Hoarder, and I know that he's won Prospect of the Year, an absolute standout, next generation for North America, but where are those Olaf games, man? He was playing crazy stuff, and now he's settling for, you know, good picks and playing them excellent or whatever. But clearly showing, as you said, doing very well in this matchup, absorbing all that pressure. Only really had to use his ultimate that one time to get out of a bad trade. Other than that, he's now gotten to a much more stable spot without having to expend much, as Conviction will pull this first dragon for themselves, having that extra regen with a team comp that has Riven and Aatrox going to prove very obnoxious. As wow, looks like Tomio actually forcing Kizno out of their own jungle using that mid lane pressure.
It's been a real tough fight for Kizno anytime he finds himself in that one-on-one. Just the brawling power of that Aatrox in the early levels. Very, very strong. Will indeed be enough to push him out for the time being. Kizno working his way up towards the top side, as that seems to be where their attention begins to focus. Of course, those grubs already picked up by Milk, but they want more. They want blood into the back line with the public execution. Landed onto Meech. Health bars low for both targets. Curtain call from Toasty will execute Duo King, but a well-placed Enchanted Crystal Arrow from Meech will stop him from firing any more shots. Meech has to abandon the top side turret, and that's going to be plates aplenty for Milk.
That's an incredible pick off for Milk Esports. I was just about to talk about how Conviction want to try and accelerate this game right around this point. So Milk finding that pick on the top side. Didn't even have vision of Aatrox, so there could have been, as far as they know, a match there, but they pulled the trigger. Nautilus doing so well, lands everything, keeps Duo King locked down just long enough for Kizno to get into position, and Toasty doing their job. Just sit back, hit all your autos, pull that curtain call, and they tried to get out of the way so that Meech could hit that Enchanted Crystal Arrow, but it comes just too late. At least came in time for Meech to survive. Now as we see resets coming out across the map, Milk are going to swap the map again to make sure they don't miss any lanes, and Horde are really going to screw up the tempo of Conviction by stopping both of these backs here. Really good entry point now on the map with those grubs having been taken, and going to cost teleport here to get these lanes back in a good spot for Conviction.
Yeah, definitely needs to commit those resources, and starting to look towards that bottom side for the second spawn of the Dragon in a couple more minutes. See Sniper still winning in these trades, but again, being in such an even space here, it feels like it's not what was promised, right? I think Hoarder's done a great job neutralizing, and now it's going to be on Sniper to have some of these crazy flanks for skirmishes and team fights to really make this Riven pick work out. You know, it's, even though Tenacity's been playing it with Conviction as well, this isn't a brand new pick to this team. It's still not competitive meta for a reason, and you kind of need to make yourself into that X factor to have this pick be worth the time and the effort and the whole draft that you do build up around it. Oh, focusing around this bottom side for the time being. Toasty and Manui keeping the vision clear as they try to keep this wave pushed up, and once again, we find both junglers hovering.
And with Aatrox here, is going to make it more difficult. Now with some items completed, we have the Cyclo Sword for Aatrox, or for Mbessa, excuse me, but Sundered Sky picked up, and decent trade there. Kind of testing their limits before they try for any 3v3. I think that Milk Esports recognized that that was a little too close for comfort. They're also on a ward, so that immediately kills the chances of this lane gank working out. Meanwhile, mid lane, that matchup I wanted to focus on, 5 Mini has the Gnasher's Tooth, and it goes back to what I was saying about accelerating this game. Conviction, the scaling, not as present compared to Milk Esports. If this Azir just kind of sits in this mid lane, absorbs waves for the next 10 minutes, there's no super hard engage for Conviction. Everyone just wants to run at you. Maybe Blitzcrank finds a pull. If Azir can just stay behind his front line, this damage is going to destroy these frontline fighters. As Sniper caught out in the jungle here, has the mobility to get away, but that's a risk he cannot afford to take for much longer.
I was actually a little more worried for Kizno there. If Sniper got the vision on him a little bit earlier, just chose to pop the ultimate and go all in, could have been close to one-shot potential, though no legendary item complete for Sniper will make that a little bit more difficult. And yeah, knowing that he's in the process of getting collapsed on by Hoarder means that he does have to retreat back away. We are 30 seconds away from Cloud Drake. That'll be the second one of the game. Fiction going to look to get that stack up to 2. Keep on scaling in for the later game, and we do have access to quite a wide variety of tools to be able to do so. I think Young is about to complete that Rod of Ages. It's a little bit late at 13.5 minutes in, but at the very least he can get that started stacking. Gonna TP back to mid so that he can ride for this dragon fight.
He's gonna claim that he's going for the strat that helps you get to 16 quicker rather than having that early Roa complete. Will be good against the scaling matchup if he can get to that point. See other completed items. Ashe did go for that Kraken Slayer. I still think it's the best starting item for Ashe, especially since they changed Ranger's focus to make it so you can pretty much have it up at all times now that it procs off of pretty much everything. Conviction are starting up this dragon first. Mbessa hovering on that mid side, not yet on vision, but would be as soon as they enter the river. Control ward in that banana bush. 5 Mini walking down. They all know that this is the prime objective here. Young could just get caught out early though.
Yeah, they're just going to send it onto Orianna. We'll get the flashback away. Shockwave back in onto Kizno to try to create an opportunity for a team fight. There's going to be the Enchanted Crystal Arrow landing into the backline, finding Kizno and picking up that first kill of the fight. Young going to claim that one. Now Manui getting worked through by the remaining 4 members of Conviction, and they will claim a quick 2 kills as well as the Dragon. Nicely done by Conviction on the punish.
Bit of anti-synergy there. Tried to use that Emperor's Divide to put Young in a bad position, but the public execution locks them in place. They don't get sent towards the river. They stay safe underneath their turret. Shockwave to hold Kizno in place, and it's an easy collapse for the members of Conviction. Kill onto Orianna, going to help them get towards their first damaging item. Ashe picks up a ton of gold in that skirmish as well. With the dragon too, I mean, Soul Point now 1 dragon away. That means full focus on this bottom side of the map. That means fights on Conviction's terms when they want. Order did complete that Sunfire, so we'll be able to absorb even better on the side as Riven has now completed that Axiom arc. And it looks like they're trying to match up Phi Mini now. Just eat waves on the Riven side. I think it's a smart way to go. Has the mobility to get away from Sniper if they try to engage for a skirmish, as well as clear the waves quickly. Rift Herald up and available. Looks like Milk Esports can at least try and clear out the vision, but I don't think that Conviction want to give this lying down. They might look for another fight right away.
Have to be careful not to get picked apart by this Ashe the way that they have been. The hook and arrow combo, very dangerous, but Tomio just gets focused down. They get onto him, they slow him up, hold him still, and finish him off. Now Public Execution connects max range onto Duo King. Good silence from Duo King to stop him from getting knocked up, but they just turn their attention right back to Meech, and down go Conviction. A quick 3-0 snap trap shut from Milk will get themselves control of this Herald and plenty more if they want it.
Really impressive for the pick on Tomio. They use everything right away to lock him down, get that first kill, which would have alone ensured the Rift Herald. But the amount of, pun intended, conviction shown by Milk Esports there to continue that fight, utilizing their flashes to get under that mid lane turret. They pick up 2 more kills in the aftermath, 3 kills onto Jhin now. That's a ton of extra gold, getting them towards that rapid fire cannon. Whenever I see that level of execution come out of a team, it makes me quite nervous for the rest of the series, because that level of communication to go for a play like that immediately, be willing to use these summoner spells to ensure those kills that get you the mid lane tier 1 turret, the objective. That type of coordination is something that is very difficult to overcome, and especially off the back of a pretty poor play for Milk Esports. Now with less than 2 minutes for Dragon, they can take back control of this bottom side of the map and try and establish some vision for the upcoming skirmishes.
Certainly. There are reigning champs for a reason. They've done quite well for themselves over the course of this ACL and the prior one, right? They were able to win that one with a slightly different roster. They had newly announced FlyQuest support Cryogen in their lineup, with Manui playing top lane previously, but they have kept their style pretty much the exact same, and it's been working out so well for them as they look to find another fight here. Manui pulled pretty far out of position, though, and here's Sniper to pump in the damage. First kill of the game for him on his signature Riven, as now Tomio leading the charge forward. Phi Mini going to just retreat back away. Toasty, hit by the Infernal Chains, going to have to flash back away, and now it's up to Hoarder, who has to take the train out to safety. Jumping back into the Rift Herald is Kisno, realizing he may have bitten off more than he can chew. He's going to find this knock-up onto Meech, but he's just going to be in the middle of no man's land. Yeah, he's taking this thing deep into the enemy jungle and hoping he can find a recall on the back end.
I didn't know you could get into Shelly that far away. That was crazy range. You know what I was saying earlier? Oh, he wants to fight again. I was going to say, whenever I said earlier that that level of commitment always makes me impressed, that was a bit too commitful, but now they find Ashe.
What a shot onto Meech from Toasty. Gets him with the 4th shot of the curtain call and holds him still off the back of the ultimate. Now a TP in from Sniper will be well and truly punished. Toasty goes on a rampage as he gets his 4th. And Milk turn what was a little bit of a messy situation into a quick 2-0 fight.
I mean, back and forth, this early game. I feel like that is par for the course when you see these type of team styles, team comps drafted, as Tomio, the Deadly Flourish lands even, just completely locked down forever. No chance to get out of there, and just as the dragon spawns, goes from bad to worse for Conviction. They do have some big item completions coming through. Phantom Dancer for Ashe, Sundered Sky for Riven. As we see here, they're able to dodge out of so many of the curtain call shots, but Meech gets hit by that very last one. Deadly Flourish as well. Once you get that first kill, it's so difficult for them to win, and the decision to turn on this TP, just blow up Sniper. Great shockwave, but no follow-up means that just a used cooldown, and now Milk enter back out onto the map. First Dragon is in their pocket, and they're looking to control this top side now, get this last outer turret down.
Yeah, and it's a substantial kill lead for Milk, but it's not quite as big of a gold lead as you might expect. The farming has been quite good, especially in the top lane, where Sniper has just been sucking up side waves, and finds himself at a pretty substantial advantage over Hoarder as a result. He's got a second legendary item completed already. That cheap Axiom arc been getting really, really popular for Rivens as of late. We got to see it from Tenacity last week, and now he's showing it in this game here. The second item, Sundered Sky, done, means he's going to have even more CDR, even more brawling power, and he wants to be able to find, you know, these isolated one-on-ones against Kizno, against Phi Mini, and try to create a point of pressure on the map for Conviction off the back of it. But right now, all of Conviction are moving up towards the top side. They are interested in the point where many 2025 games have been decided, the Otacon.
And they're just going to rip it right away. They're not looking for a pick. They're not looking to try and find an advantage. They're just going to start hitting it and run away, as I've seen many teams do. Maybe they recognize the error of their ways. You revel in this, folks. This is one of the last Otacon throws you may see in your lifetime. So we have to take advantage of every one of these opportunities. I like Young staying on this flank here. Has Shockwave up and available. Could find a huge play if they're able to pull that off. Sniper also holding down the flank here, and Milk have to hold this line strong, and they still have to try and get this outer turret down. Baron's in 4 minutes. They need to try and get some permanent control on this top side of the map. Otherwise, having mid lanes pushed all the way into your inner could be disastrous for the rest of this game.
Hoarder a little cut off from the rest of the team. Meech just starting to work through and pops the ultimate to try to create some space away, but this is their frontliner with all of his health gone, and Sniper coming in on a flank in the same moment already pops the broken wings, trying to dash forward, but will get melted down way too fast. Kizno claims that kill, but it is traded back. Phi Mini in there, shovels him back, but his Shockwave backed himself to be able to take down for a double kill. Meech rocking up in this fight. Kizno the only one with a decent health bar left standing, as well as Young. And both parties will back away. It's a 2-for-2 exchange.
Kizno absolutely smurfed that fight. Sniper was going to kill Toasty in a millisecond, but the max range public execution locks down Riven, saves Toasty's life, allows them to open up the curtains and fire on the rest of the team. I mean, I haven't seen this Mbessa flexed into jungle as often as some of the newer champs that they adjusted, often seeing Aatrox, Malphite, stuff like that, but Kizno's making this look like he's been playing it forever. So practiced, he's hit so many max range public executions, most onto un-CC'd targets as well. And as we're talking about all of these interesting champs, these early game skirmishers, these 80 fighters, we have a 0-1-6 Azir with Shadowflame and Nashor's Tooth. Once Phi Mini is able to really start going, get some uptime in these team fights, that's an aspect of Milk Esports composition that Conviction hasn't really had to deal with yet. And yes, Young is about to tick 210 stacks on the Roa, is going to get that level 16 advantage. It just came through as I said that. So 2-level advantage now on Azir. That advantage doesn't do you anything if you're not using it. They have to look for an advantage, a skirmish here, take advantage of the time where you have a stronger mid laner, because you're not going to have that for much longer.
Absolutely. And we'll see if they can continue to capitalize on this. Phi Mini on the Azir, a pick that he has truly loved throughout his short career so far, and hasn't gotten too frequently. It's been banned against him so much. The fact that he gets to get on it here, very big for him, and you really want to make that game a win for your side when you are able to get onto some of these heavily contested picks that a lot of teams aren't willing to give you. The Mbessa, the Azir, certainly going to be in those categories, as Sniper continuing to flex some muscle up against Hoarder here. He may not have the armor pen, but he's got low enough cooldowns and no resources, so he will keep that pressure onto the Scion.
Just when I thought Hoarder may be in trouble, he pops the Soul Furnace and gets a 500 health shield, just walks away from it, knowing the limits of not only his champion, but Riven, proving to be very fruitful for our prospect of the year. Otacon being actually hit here, started up, and I don't think Milk Esports are aware that this is happening. I think they're under the understanding that a back occurred, maybe a reset, but all the members are here. They could get this for free.
They very well could. They're going to start working onto it, and it is going to fall on down before anybody's able to respond. Kizno getting very close to public execution range, but no dice. And yeah, Milk just over-indexed towards the bottom side a little bit too much, but They're going to say, hey, that Otacon probably did some damage to you. We're going to start off onto the Baron. It falls down to about 10k. Duo King with a max range hook on a 5 mini. And now going to get knocked up as well by Tomio, trying his best to kite it out, but the Infernal Chain's going to hold him still, and Tomio gets his first of the fight. Now here comes Riven off of the side, going to hold down Kizno, and Wind Slash will take him down. It's 3 for Conviction already, and there's going to be Hoarder and Toasty forced to retreat. Conviction, they don't only get the Otacon, they're about to pick up Baron as well.
Okay, so we've seen a ton of Otacon throws this year, but I've never seen an Otacon throw come from the team that didn't get it. They walk up, they see that Otacon's taken, they see that they're all backing in that tri-brush, and so their answers just start hitting Baron. I get it at first because they stop all of the backs, you can get some tempo, and I would have said the call is to run down and get Dragon right away. They're getting it now because of all of the backs and because of the Baron pressure, but like right here, you've gotten something back. You stopped every single one of their recalls. This is good right here. But Fi Mini walking right into the hook, expends flash, but goes into the Baron pit, taking so much damage. Has to use the Emperor's Divide to try and peel. Meantime, snipers come in on the flank, and with those 3 members down, easy Baron pickup. They do lose the Dragon. But I think it's a huge win for Conviction in this game that has been so back and forth. Sharilda's Grudge now completed for Sniper, going to make these side lane skirmishes so much deadlier, potentially even pushing it to a position where Hoarder can't just sit there and absorb all that pressure.
Certainly, and that might be where our focus is going to be turned on to, is how much can Hoarder do in these fights as kind of the tankiest member on the map, and as somebody who should be well equipped to be able to sort of absorb the front line of Conviction as they look to just kind of rampage through you with these 3 cast Qs of the Riven and the Aatrox. It's easier said than done, and Hoarder cannot be everywhere at the same time, and the pick potential on this Conviction lineup is incredibly good. So it's all about Milk just being able to assemble their forces at the right time here, and now with Conviction having picked up 2 epic buffs, they're now in a more dominant position than ever. They can start to play these side lanes far more aggressively. Tomio face checks into Kizno. Manui's there as well. They're going to hold him down for as long as he can, but he is going to pop the ultimate and try to just sustain through it. Duo King there as well, doing a great job of blocking away these curtain call shots, and a flash from Meech will escape public execution just in the nick of time. Conviction managed to nullify that push, and Hoarder has come down for it. Big ultimate onto 2. Tomio trying to kite it back away. He doesn't have the World Ender any longer. Double knockup landed by Hoarder. Young gonna have to flash back away. Duo King going to be the next target now. Tomio still doing his best with these darkened blades to pump the damage back in, and it's just a meat grinder for Conviction as Sniper arrives to the scene and tears Milk apart. It's 4 to the side of Conviction. Toasty the last one standing as Conviction looked to crack open the base.
That looks so good to start. Fi Mini teleports in the back lines, puts down the Azir turret, but I don't know what the hell happened after that. He uses the Shifting Sands right into the middle of them, get killed in an instant, and without that Azir, the damage output is so lacking. It really all falls on the shoulders of Jhin, and Bessa went so heavy into damage that they don't survive long enough to deal it. Toasty going forward kills Young.
He's just trying his best to cut out the wave. He doesn't want the game to end here, but he will eventually be finished off. Finishing off Young did buy them a little bit of time, but Meech is still going to continue to work on this Nexus. They're going to decide to full send it. Conviction trying to end the game. Milk trying to extend it, but they can't stop Meech. He continues to fire away alongside Tomio, and Conviction take game number 1, sub 30 minutes.
I mean, that was a very unexpected ending to that game. There was so much haste early on. We saw fights go back and forth consistently, but it kind of felt like Milk figured out what they needed to do. They had to play this more patient. They were being too rash, wait for Azir to scale up, and then I can't wait for our incredible desk to get a highlight of that final fight that ended up doing it, because Fi Mini goes in with those Shifting Sands, just gets killed in an instant, and that's just game. So when you draft these scaling picks, you're waiting for Jhin to get these more crit items to take down these bruisers. You're waiting for Azir to get better positioning. It felt like they weren't able to find their opportunities.
Yeah, and really good decisive playmaking there from the Conviction side as well. Really doing a great job of not just absorbing these gank attempts or these engage attempts from the side of Milk, but turning them back into positive plays for themselves when Milk does overexert themselves. They did go for a couple of spicy signature picks in this game. The Sniper Riven maybe didn't have the exact result you might dream of when you imagine this player, but he shows up in that last team fight right when you need him. Duo King on his Blitzcrank as well, playing at a very high level, not letting that lane disadvantage affect them too much, and still being able to make the plays later on in the game. All in all, a great execution from the side of Conviction in a game that they were not quite ahead in for a period of time there, but they do come on up with the win. Like you said, Jack, we're going to send it right back over to the analyst desk. But first, a quick word from Zen Market. Zen Market is your one-stop solution for buying products directly from Japan. They'll help you buy items from over 10,000 shops, as well as place bids on auctions on your behalf. They'll even consolidate all your items safely into one box and can ship internationally. They provide excellent customer service in 19 languages, which is why Zen Market is trusted by over 2 million users worldwide. Click the panel below the stream or click the link in chat to try them out now. If you sign up with promo code Aegis, you'll get 1,000 yen off your first international shipping fee. And if you decide to make a purchase on Zen Market, you can use code Aegis25 to get 25% off your first purchase. Thank you to Zen Market for supporting Aegis and the ACL. Quick word from them, and we will be back with Orbital and Sneezes on the desk.
日本国内発送のみ？あ、それなら全マーケットね。
すごい迷宮だ。あの商品はどこに？あそこだ。でもどうすれば。わかった。よっと。はっ。うん。はっ。よし。
ありがとう、全マーケット。
Conviction held it down, even if they looked like they were a little bit worse off in the early game. By mid, they were in control, and it came off of some interesting moments left, right, and center. And Sneezes, I think the goal tells us a story and a half right there. When it comes to making a decision, Conviction had it down.
Yeah, I thought they were really decisive in the mid-late game. Sniper played pretty well. Maybe some mistakes here and there. And there's some really awesome blitz hooks from Duo King. So I think there's a really nice pick on Azir that helped flip the game. So we'll probably have that on the replay docket. But just shout out really quick to Hoarder. I thought he had a nice game against a really tough matchup. So I was kind of expecting like 40-50 CS, and it was pretty even most of the game.
I think anytime you play the Sign, you do expect to be put down a little bit, and yet it never felt punished horrendously. However, there were some moments that were heavily punished in terms. You heard it on the desk, and you saw it in the game. It did feel like Milk had the right idea in the early game. There was a moment where they actually focused the bot lane. We saw a couple flashes blown, and they did try and catapult themselves into a much more convincing early game. However, there was a moment at about 14 minutes into the game where we did see CNV kind of punish them for overstepping for half a moment, and it led to Conviction getting a decent lead there.
Yeah, this was a nice setup from CNV. Blue team here is trying to like cheat the play and punish the Ori while they know the red team's doing Drake, and they just shift up after Drake and punish the overextend. So really nice use of Ori Flash. It's nice to burn Ori Flash at an objective because
yeah, it is good to try and burn that immobile mage at the end of the day. This follow-up, of course, was one to watch for, but we weren't overly worried about it. This was just the first time that we got to see CNV actually get a victory on the board. They got Dragon into a kill, into more, and it seems that we have lost Sneezes for the moment. However, Sneezes has relayed to me there were a few other moments in there. We did see CNV. It felt more like multiple major impact moments is what really gave them that value throughout some of the smaller decisions, it always felt like Milk had the right idea. Hey, chase around the map, look for some of those other pieces of the table. But this Otacon here was one that really surprised us. I think this was about 25 minutes into the game. We actually saw the Otacon taken, and then to me, it was such an interesting call because Milk basically was like, hey, we're going to do Baron right afterwards. And they just took Otacon. And then this hook from Duo King Sneeze, as you mentioned, was so good on 5 Mini.
Yeah, it was a really nice hook, and I like the idea from blue side here, but they're playing with no vision, so it's really hard to make these aggressive plays on objectives when you don't know if they're resetting or not. They kind of assumed that red team was resetting, and they got really punished. So, but yeah, awesome hook from Blitzcrank.
And that's Duo King, stepping in here as one of the subs on the roster, very much being able to slide back in, has worked with the team a little bit. And those are the main two turning points. We basically watched CNV use those two moments, push themselves into almost a stranglehold over Milk Esports. And we saw this kind of final piece of the puzzle come through when at about 28 minutes, Sneezes, you and I were looking at this going, I mean, they're winning. There's no other way to put it. It's just how do they kind of close this out? And we saw Milk Esports try and pick fights outside of the lanes after that Baron. They were trying to pick fights. And yet it was skillful kiting at the end for CNV, especially for Meech, who you mentioned before, you want to see the bot lane. You want to see how they do. Meech played the last fight exceptionally well.
Yeah, Meech had a great game. This is a play that I really like from blue side in concept. This is a coaching point that we talk about all the time. Almost every coach in NHL is going to talk about this. If the enemy team has Baron, take a fight in the enemy jungle. Like, you got to play Baron defense. So I thought the idea was really good. It's just red side is up gold. They have more resources in terms of summoners, and they played the counter engage really well. And then just from here, Toasty's 1v4. It's really hard for Jin to clear the waves out efficiently, and they can just go for it. So I think the game was cooked when that jungle fight didn't go their way. So, but good effort, and honestly, Toasty off rolling, like playing really well. I wouldn't be surprised if he carries a game here coming up and we get a 1-1 series. So. It looked one side at the end, but it was really back and forth most of the game.
Yeah, I mean, there are the smaller moments where Milk Esports, and you mentioned it at the very end as well, the fact that this last team fight, all the play was appropriate. That play at the end for Milk was appropriate. They had the right playbook. They understand what they need to do. And moving into game number 2, you also get the benefit of knowing, hey, Viper's not going to be on the Riven, so can't make these maybe stronger mid to late game pushes, which, by the way, Sniper was able to hop in, have that impact in the background of the fights, being able to lean in, which is why we saw that 19,000 damage that maybe or maybe not you farmed off a Scion who had a lot of HP, but we don't talk about that factor. Looking at game 2, we look at Milk Esports. Do we see them stay on that blue side, or do we see them shift over to red for more counter pick?
I think they go more and more blue. Hoarder's playing really well on weak side. It wasn't like the Riven had 20 kills and was up 100 CS. I think there's still priority champions here that haven't been picked. We got Yunara, Corki, Rumble, Xin Kiana. Wukong was banned game 1. I'm interested to see if these bans stick. It looks like CNV is blue, so Milk pivoting, huh? But not sure that's probably confirmed, but yeah, it'll be interesting. We'll see. So Milk opting for counter pick, CNV. I think this is a good chance for them to go 2-0 because there are still some power picks left that they can just snag early and build a strong composition. When we're talking about draft orbital, what I like to see from a coach's perspective is I like blue side to have a really unified composition. I want like a dive comp, a poke comp, something that all the champions have very similar identity. And on red side, I like to see winning matchups. You kind of want both. You want playable or good matchups, and you want a unified comp. But usually, because you have to pick first on blue side, it's better to have that cohesive team comp that you could play to a win condition. And then red side, you're going to have better matchups from picking later.
That's the call here, but of course immediate first ban here. CMV really don't want to try and utilize that Rumble, even though it's on their side. Sniper probably not as comfortable on that pick. So hey, we'll get it off the table. Don't have to worry about it so far. Yunara on the flip side was banned away by Milk Esports last time as well, and I can only assume it's going to be a red side ban outside since you didn't pick it up in game number 1. Can't afford to let that out into the wild moving in here. But no, they optimize and focus on that jungle, taking away some of that, as you said, pick power potential that could be synergized here on the blue side.
Yeah, I think we're seeing comfort bans. You know, Rumble is one of Porter's best champion. Tomio's excellent at Vi. Vi Talia is probably the strongest mid jungle combo left. You know, you could say Ari or Galio too. Like, there's a lot of Vi pairings that are here. So I think these are like player focused bans, more than like champion power bans. And it'll be interesting to see what comes through on B1, what people comfortable giving. I'm thinking about, again, those strange junglers, the Jace, the Kiana, the Zed. But you know, we'll see. Especially, and it's tough for its conviction too, having those lost bans because of E-subs.
Yep. I mean, we say that, and yet it feels like they drafted just fine in that game number 1. It really did feel like they were in a comfort position, but I do agree, losing those bans will hurt more and more as we head further into this draft. Looking at the Zyra ban this time around, another jungler that we haven't seen maybe as prominently as the recent Aatrox and the Abesses and the like. Instead, that Zyra still being focused out, saying, hey, we can't deal with that clear speed plus the AoE damage that can come out.
Yeah, the Zyra ban is pretty interesting to me. I'm curious why, but yeah, I think CNV owes another like fake ban. Yep, here comes the Teemo, and then yeah, Milk, one more ban. I think it's harder to lose bans on blue side. I think having to pick early, especially the first 3 champs, get countered on your B1 gets countered, and then one of your B2 B3s get countered. So I think if CNV is going to feel this ban loss, it's going to be this game.
That would, I mean, I would hate that personally as well, just not being able to really work your magic in there. But the Akali respect comes in once more, sent towards Young's way. There's obviously no Azir to play with, but the Yunara is open this time around, and unsurprisingly, Meech is going to grab that immediately. All of a sudden, Milk Esports saying, crap, now we got to deal with this as well.
Yeah, we saw a lot of Corkis and Lucians over the summer into Yunara. We saw a lot of Kaisas as well. I'm wondering if Milk is just going to go like, you know, Kaisa Alistar just to have the tools to fist fight. But we'll see. It'll be interesting. I think you pick like AD plus jungle here. I think you pick like Kaisa Xin, and then you give yourself engaged tools and later in the draft. But Wukong also up, so maybe Kaisa Wukong. I'll amend my pick. I still think Wukong is broken.
I mean, you're throwing up 2 of the highest priority junglers that we could obviously see here, and following that logic would make sense to follow up with a little bit of dive immediately as you called it. It was one of the top 2 there, and for CNV, now you get to focus on your jungle pick on the other way. Are you going to go a little bit more defensive, or maybe focus a different angle, maybe a bit more damage in there for Tomio if they wish?
Yeah, I saw a lot of Jarvan and Trundle into Wukong in the summer. I don't know if those picks hold up or if that's the right approach here. And I kind of also was thinking about the Xin Zhao, but I think we're going to see like Xin Zhao Kiana trade later in the series. So I'd be surprised if Xin Zhao gets picked here for CNV. Yeah, I'm curious what they want to pair with Yunara. We saw a lot of pairing variety. If I'm CNV though, I would just pick my jungle mid. I just go like, you know, Jarvan Talia, keep it very simple. Unless you're really concerned about the mid counter. So, but yeah, we'll see what they do. It'll be interesting. Oh, the alley. Okay, just taking the bot lane.
Yeah, this was the other thing that I was kind of curious about. You and I were talking about it a little bit in the green room, maybe some shift of focus depending on where the draft goes. Earlier was a very mid focus the entire time. In game number 1, heavily, obviously, because of the Zero pickup. It makes sense, obviously, giving that one over to 5 mini. This time around, it's turning into a bot side into that jungle. How much of that synergy works for that jungle role, and it's looking to do even more so, a little bit more dive with the Renekton, which is a blind pick here. And we were talking about the fact that for Sniper, you didn't exactly, I don't want to say star powered us or overpowered us in that stardom on the Riven last time. This time on the Renekton, you got to deal with whatever Hoarder wants to throw at you.
Yeah, I really like this this pivot from CNV. You know, drafts are built from the top down, right? I think last game we were talking about Azir Oriana really early. Now we have Yunara Kaisa. So to your point, you know, the bot focus. Ooh, nice. Nice. The new guy. I don't remember his name. Is that enabled?
I hope so. I think it came out before the ACL. I'm sorry. I came in from the ADL, which I think Zaheen was actually enabled or
Oh, yeah, Zaheen,
disabled the
Zaheen.
entire way. So my brain is still in that motion.
Right.
Okay, so Zaheen is enabled. We got confirmation.
Okay, we've
Want to make
confirmed
sure.
Zaheen enabled. Perfect. I'm really excited to see this champ. I've not seen this champ in competitive. I have no idea the
Really?
matchup on
Oh
Renekton, so
boy.
I've seen it in solo queue. I've seen it around. I've seen it in combines and stuff, but I haven't seen it in actual like game for keeps. So really interesting. Oh, Nidalee. Wow.
Okay, so still targeted a little bit. Makes sense when you already see the Renekton. This would be targeted at Tomio once again, maybe taking away a lot of that damage output, which could make sense as well. Right now, it feels that CNV are a little bit lost in the damage aspect. Renekton can do some damage. Kiana, obviously a great damage dealer in the late game, but we still need to see a bit of oomph in there. It is going to be the Nico band away, targeted at that bottom lane into that support role, but double up on taking care of that mid lane. You go ahead and ban away that Talia, which you were talking about before, Sneezes.
Yeah. I think at this point, you know, Talia, Renekton, Alistar, like it's so much free setup for Talia. This was a really nice ban. I'm expecting a mid blind here. Nope, just the Rakan. Okay, matching the alley. I don't like Rakan into alley personally, but I know some players don't mind it.
Yeah.
This is fine. You have, you know, both teams kind of want to dive, but I think there's enough peel from CNV. I'm kind of favoring CNV right now, honestly, with the alley, the Kiana. This Yunar is going to have a lot of room to hit, right? Like, look at the front line, look at the disengage from Syndra. I think it'll be really you need to really slam something here for Milk to make it winning. And yeah, Rise, we'll see. I mean, matchup, it'll be interesting. I'm leaning CNV, honestly.
Yeah, the
Just off
rise at the
draft.
very end does not give me a whole lot of hope, but it does mean that punch can come through. For 5 Mini, I think, who had a rougher game on the Azir, didn't really get to that point of the scaling focus. I do wonder if that Rise is like, dude, give it to me, let me scale, let's go ahead and hone in with the Zaheen and all, and we will look to take victory there. I do agree with you, though, that we are looking at CNV to have a lot of fun, and without further ado, we'll go ahead and see if they can throw down for game number 2, put themselves on series point and march ever closer to that grand finals. Or will Milk go ahead and spoil the game plan and force us to a 1-1? Either way, we'll have Gordo and Jack to cover us through the entire game. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Orbital, and welcome back to Summoner's Rift, everybody, for game number 2. Conviction, a decisive, quick win in what was otherwise a close game in game number 1. We'll see if they can repeat that in game number 2. Christmas Frog. Gotta love those rare spawns, Jack.
He just wants to be a part of the action. It's ACL upper bracket finals. Wants his day in the sun, and I'm really looking forward to this top lane matchup. I know both the guys on the desk were as well, but it's not only Hoarder, who's a very good brawling top laner on this brand new champion. How prepared is Sniper to go into it? But it's also Sniper on their most played champion throughout the course of their professional career, this Renekton. And I think they're going to be a bit more warmed up, had that Riven game, obviously, to get into this, and now late invade coming through from Kisno. Kiana is in the area, so we could see an early 2v2, and I'm not sure if Kiana got in there early enough. Looks like she did.
Well, going to get pressured on early here. Hoarder called on over to try to push back for Tomio on this Kiana. Tomio's Kiana is ridiculous, by the way. He got to show us this last week in their series up against Maryville, and it was absolutely crazy. Of course, right now, it is under pressure from Hoarder, but that smite will be enough for him to get out of here. And you know what? That means he does get to play the game. He at least gets to hit level 2, gets to go down and have a somewhat respectable clearing speed. And that's mission accomplished as far as that is concerned. I do think Hoarder's got to be very worried about level 2 going over to Renekton uncontested here. Zehen is not the strongest lane duelist without items, and I think Sniper very well could be in a truly dominant lane position against Hoarder here because of how much XP he lost.
Yeah, I mean, already has essentially 2 entire waves in their pocket, now pushing all the way in. I like the aggressive stance they've taken. Young a level down here in this mid lane, but still able to get out a ton of damage, and Hoarder does get level 2, so we'll buy them a little bit of space under turret. But like you mentioned, not only does Zehen not do a lot of damage without having items on those abilities, but also those autos really leave a lot to be desired early in this game when you're not using your resets effectively. So missing some CS underneath the turret, Sniper in a much more commanding spot than I expected them to be, and continuing to push that advantage.
Now a gank onto 5 Mini will be flashed out just in time, and Kisno arrives on the Wukong, nearly able to finish off Tomio. Tomio managing to flash over the wall before that crushing blow can come on through, but Kisno slowing with the red buff, looking to try to finish off Young. Not quite going to be able to do it. Young will fall back underneath the turret in time.
And notably, able to get out without expending the flash. That is going to be a permanent advantage for the side of Conviction. Get a repeat gank off with Kiana. Try and find a kill onto 5 Mini after this quick reset by Young. Obviously going to help them as well with this first dragon spawning soon. Manui consistently looking to push forward here. And I wouldn't say that this is like a hard winning bottom 2v2 into the Yunara Alistar. It just seems that Meech hasn't been able to get the uptime necessary to have the Cultivation of Spirit available when Rakan goes in. And you see already, now that they've got that 1 minion advantage, they're starting to feel a bit more confident, walking up, contesting the wave, freezing it now. And yeah, those arcs, the Arc of Judgment there, will do a ton of damage. Is Meech able to walk out?
Yeah, great spacing from Meech here, avoids the knockup from Manui, and then Duo King gets to connect that stun off the back end because of how long he stayed in. Very positive trade, and they're just going to look to continue to try to take those every time that they have access to the Cultivation of Spirit, like you called out there. And you can see Sniper already looking to try to push his advantage in this top lane, farming behind enemy lines. This is a little bit of dicey territory, though. I mean, Kisno is clearing up over here. Obviously, we have universal vision. Now Sniper sees him as well. Question is, how does Sniper get himself out of this situation? Will have the double dashes as necessary. He is also level 6, so he does have Dominus and can honestly threaten a pretty harsh trade up against Kisno, who does finally tick that level 5. So Sniper, smarter than me, knows that he can play this. Now engage in the bottom side. Toasty gonna get stunned up by Duo King. Meech flashes forward, finds the last shot, and will claim the kill. Now it's an all-in to the bottom side. Sniper stayed on Kisno the whole way through, and Hoarder just has to watch in horror as his lane opponent kills his jungler.
Sniper is officially warmed up, feeling himself now, killing the enemy jungler, hitting those Krugs. First reset of the game going to come through now, and I've never seen Hoarder backs and gets a Bramble Vest. First item on that reset. Not something I have seen yet out of Zehen's. Obviously still a very new champion, so the tech's not fully out yet. This could be genius for all I know. But some other backs coming across the map. 2 big components from Yunara to that Kraken Slayer. Same item path for Toasty on the Kaisa. A little bit behind, obviously, because of that kill going over. But now with this pickaxe double longsword, I don't think the Bramble Vest is going to do all that much in stopping Sniper from continuing to push this advantage.
Yeah, I've seen a lot, at least in ACL and a little bit in Demacia Cup as well. I've seen a lot of Zehen's kind of play more weak side, right? Play it almost like it's a tank and trust that, you know, you're going to hit your items. You're going to be able to get into these flank fights later on. And really your main objective is to get that Cultivation of War stacked up and be able to res yourself. So, you know, I haven't seen anybody take it far enough to be just straight up building tank items, but especially now that Sniper is starting to pull significantly ahead. I can see the logic here for Porter. Now, ooh, gets a nice return there, the dreaded return. Yanks Sniper underneath the turret for an extra shot. You're going to need a lot more than that, though, to start winning these trades up against the Renekton.
Yeah, and I'm checking now to see what Zahend ended up getting that passive nerfed down to in terms of percentage AD given, because when the champ first came out, I felt like a lot of top laners in the professional setting were going to itemize much tankier later in the game because of such a high percentage just being given to you for free for auto attacking. I believe it is 24%. It was down from 36%, which was ridiculous. But right out of the gates, I think Bramble Vest, not the craziest thing, bought as a component by a ton of top laners, but not finished until later in the game, can now pivot to something like Triforce, Spear of Sojin, Sundered Sky, all of which are going to give you health as well. And as you mentioned, understanding that you're not playing to win this lane super hard, you're playing to try and mitigate any sort of advantages. Now we're getting a full-on skirmish.
Yeah, he pops the ultimate, but I don't think it's going to be enough. He just can't get the cultivation of ore stacks up in time. Grim Deliverance does not save him, and he falls down. Meanwhile, fight breaking out on the bottom side. Meech, again, in a strong position, able to dash out of the way of Manui's engage, and that wins out the fight. But 5 minis here, coming in with the root, will be able to pick him up, but Duo King punts him away. Meech finishes the kill on a Manui, picks up some fruit, and gets enough space to avoid 5 minis remaining casts. You've got to be kidding me. Conviction don't give up a single thing, and they are going to be able to walk Meech out of there.
Unbelievable movement coming out of them in that fight, able to get away from the grand entrance, continues fighting up, and then I don't know what that last movement was by Manui, maybe just underestimating how much range they had on the Gleaming Quill, or an auto attack. Was certainly one hit away from killing the Yunara, but just turns around, throws a ball at him, gets that extra kill in the end. And great job by Young moving down after 5 minis Realm Warp to continue escorting Yunara out of that. 3 kills means Kraken Slayer completed already. 9.5 minutes into the game. Sniper also with that Eclipse. Just to briefly touch on that top lane skirmish, I think Hoarder didn't expect that slice and dice to come in behind him when he went in with that all-right rush. So then it puts himself in a bad position, understands he's just dead. And I mean, just the lethality from Eclipse absolutely cutting through what armor has been built already.
Yeah, the additional shielding here that the Eclipse gives and the CDR really what Sniper wants, and in the already more lane dominant state here for the Renekton, definitely going to choose it over the Sundered Sky or something like that. Is now another engage on the Meech. This time they get their man, taking no chances and finishing off the Conviction 80 carry with no problems. Now Duo King going to be the next target, knocked up under the turret and finished off through the Unbreakable Will. Toasty going to claim credit for that one, and Milk finally get themselves onto the board.
Brilliant play there by Milk Esports in combination with their jungler, understanding that Meech and Duo King are going to look to push this gold lead, these item advantages they have, immediately just get Wukong down there. And I mean, Conviction fall forward, hook, line, and sinker. Immediately, Meech just pops the ultimate, gets knocked up by Cyclone, means you can't E out of the way of the grand entrance, gets taken down immediately. The patience to also get the kill on Duo King despite Unbreakable Will being procced. Very, very impressive, and kind of building back on towards what was their strength last game was Kizno and Toasty. The Jhin, the Mbessa combination, putting out so much damage from long range, hitting all of those public executions. Now on the Wukong, continuing to be aggressive on what Sneezes said, and I concur, strongest jungler in the game.
Yeah, Kizno looking for the solo bolo here up against Meech, and will be able to find it. One more Nimbus strike puts him in range and puts Meech into the dirt. Both summoners blown in that exchange as well. And yeah, I mean, that's just what the Monkey King gives you. He doesn't even have the Trinity Force completed yet, but he has no problems running down a Yunara from full and just kind of picking up that kill. Now, going to have control for this dragon. You got to watch out for Young, though. Does have the unleashed power still available. 5 Mini just gets jumped on. A little bit of forward ahead of the rest of the team there, not able to make anything happen. Now they're going to turn out to Tomio, who's doing his best to create the space, but Kizno's out of tools to be able to close the gap. Did not even really get to use Cyclone here. Finally going to pop it onto Young. Young not actually able to connect any of these spears. Kizno dancing around him all day, stays alive. Toasty finally able to finish the job on towards Tomio, and they get Young with Kizno on the other side. Meanwhile, Sniper continuing to dominate this top lane, but the Cultivation of War stacked up in time will allow Hoarder to survive this time.
Wow. I'm really surprised how well Milk Esports were able to play that, considering how poorly it started for them. Hoarder now does have to get out of here. Flashes, but it's flash and response.
Oh, he does have the full stacks, but it's just not that low of a cooldown. Gets it back off of one more Q, and Hoarder turns the play back on Sahen. Solo kill up against Sniper.
The Darkened Glaive secures the retribution kill for Hoarder. Says, I'm enough. I'm done with this. I'm sick and tired. Every second of every game so far, I've been pushed out of my turret, bullied, and killed by an E-sub. Albeit this E-sub is a former LCS player and an extremely talented person. But still, I'm sick of it, and I'm going to turn it around. Incredible play by Hoarder, and shows great understanding for the champion, knowing that he can stay in that fight. He's patient enough to wait for that Darkened Glaive cooldown to come back up, gets the health advantage, seems to catch Sniper off guard just a little bit. Now, as we fully zoom out, completed items for each and every player except for Hoarder because of that quick detour for the Bramble Vest. But as we enter into this mid-game, Dragon up. Looks like the inside track for now is going to go to Milk Esports.
So that's a couple of knife's edge plays that both come out in Milk Esports' favor and are kind of the difference between them being in this game as they are right now and being totally out of it. If Tomio, or rather Kizno, just gets one shot by Young in that fight and Sniper gets a solo kill and they lose the fights on both fronts, they're just in such a deep hole right now. But obviously that's not the world we're living in here, and so Milk are competitive in this game number 2 still, and I mean, I can't express enough how massive this is for Hoarder, right? He was in such a bad lane state, and it does so much for him to be able to get that shutdown gold. He can now sort of fight back. He can stay in the lane longer. He gets a big injection of gold. I'm gonna have to take a stop here as Toasty is getting ganked to the bottom side, gonna Killer Instinct his way out to safety. It's an attempted dive from Meech, but here's Kizno once again, picking off the AD carry, and now Duo King without access to that Unbreakable Will. He's gotta back off as well.
Way too aggressive from Conviction there. I understand what they were trying to do. You kill Toasty Alex, no AD carry, gives you a pretty much free dragon, but like I said, far too aggressive. They're able to turn that around. Kizno once again in the right place at the right time. 3-1-2 on the Wukong, soloing the dragon right now. Toasty Alex recovered extremely well. Early on in this game, I was getting quite worried about the Kaisa ability there, especially in that dragon team fight. Was the only one on Milk Esports to die, put themselves in a pretty poor position trying to get the Kiana, but able to get away from that dive very well. And as we take a look at the gold leads, stabilizing everywhere you want it to be. Rise still quite a bit down, but with the scaling being slightly in his advantage, sure, they're not worried all too much as he continues to look to stack up that tier.
Fantastic job here. Just looking at Manui, waiting behind enemy lines here. Fishing, it looks like, for an angle onto this Rift Herald, but he just doesn't have the numbers. Instead, Kizno going to the bottom side, gets a slow up onto Young, and they should have no problem running this guy down. He pops the Unleashed Power, but you cannot one-shot the Wukong at this stage, my friend. And he will be finished off. Another kill's worth of gold into 5 Mini, who is getting those double stacking items on this Rise. Gank in the mid lane, or rather top lane, as Hoarder does get thrown back underneath the turret, and he should be executed here soon. Does go in with the ultimate, trying to stack up Cultivation of War. Can't do it in time, and now the turret going to fall down as well. Manui now in charge of trying to get 5 Mini out of here to safety, but Toasty arrives, and Toasty does have a fair bit of damage in his pocket. Trying to trade back onto Meech here as Sniper finishes off Manui. Here's Kizno with the Cyclone, getting it onto 3. Now popped outside of the Rift Rift Herald is Tomio, and finished off on the backside. Kizno hunts down the support. 4 members fall for the side of Conviction. Only 3 on Milk. They end up winning out the fight.
It looked to be disastrous because of the delayed entry into that fight for Wukong and Rise, but if you watched all of it and you pick up an incredible quickness by Manui, lands onto all 3 of those melee members, keeps them in place, buys enough time for Toasty Alex to get there, for Kizno to get there, and with this flash coming down, Kizno flashing over the scout of the week.
Kizno's grooving on him this game. His footwork has been so good. From dodging out on the Syndra abilities earlier, that was a great flash there to get over Scatter of the Week. He has got Young's number, and he is showing it here as Young goes down to 0-3. And Kizno on this tier 1 jungler, absolutely running away with game number 2. He can continue to perform like this. Should allow Milk to maintain this lead. They've already got 2 dragons to 0. And are well set up to be able to stack up a 3rd.
It had a stellar performance on the Mbessa last game as well. And 5 Mini this game in a much better position, actually has some extra gold, not just passively farming up in those lanes. I am still quite concerned about them being able to focus down Meech in these fights. We haven't seen Sniper really get in the full 5v5 to start. And Meech has been showing all game an affinity for taking fights on this Kiana. Has that Phantom Dancer completed, not opting for the Runan's Hurricane.
Finding Tomio here, are Kizno, but we'll be able to get away. Woking out here prepared to support his jungler, and both parties will back on off. Hoarder and Sniper duking it out here. Now that Hoarder has the Trinity Force completed, he feels much better about taking these fights, although Tomio about to make it pretty unfair, going to pop the ultimate, trying to get back in here with the Grim Deliverance. Meanwhile, there's a catch onto Young once again. Kizno just is all over this mid laner this game, and he's going to donate the kill over to Toasty. Meanwhile, Cultivation of War procced in the bottom side, and Hoarder says, thank you very much, guys. You've left your mid lane exposed, and I'm just going to walk away from this.
Used that ultimate extremely well to dodge the Elemental Wrath, or the Edge of Ixtal, I should say. Doesn't get snared. It means he can avoid so much excess damage coming in from Renekton by using that ultimate. If they didn't split up there, if Tomio hadn't gone over to the bushes and Sniper going under turret, Hoarder probably could have picked up a kill in that exchange. Has that Triforce fully completed now. Bramblevest doing its job, just sitting there. 5 Mini, 8 stacks on the Roa. Not going to get 16 on its proc like last game, but probably going to get 15 through it. Seraph's Embrace now fully completed, and another notable item to point out, Kai'Sa has finished the Winsus, means they're 1 item away from essentially being full build, having all of those upgrades up and available. Kai'Sa starts to really tear through most champs once that Nashor's comes online. Interesting to see where Toasty goes after that point. Want to see maybe if the mid lane starts coming out, goes full AP, maybe a Zhonya's, maybe that Shadow Flame, we'll see. As Dragon just going to immediately be taken, go over to Milk, no contest.
Yeah, I mean, Conviction are on a timer now. They're going to have to be able to show up and contest this next one. And the fact that they've never been able to get Renekton down here to kind of skirmish for one of these big objectives, really rough for Conviction here, and means that they're going to find themselves on the back foot objectives-wise for the time being. That Otacon has also spawned bottom side, so going to be a lot of attention down there, even with the Dragon down. We'll be a ways away from any kind of Baron action. So, going to continue to see people cycling through vision here. A lot of defensive vision layered down by Conviction, but they don't have a lot of ability to see where Milk is, and Milk are the ones with control over the river.
Hoarder showing great respect for Tomio, waiting for that wave to push in closer to the tier 2 turret. As Conviction looks to push out this bottom lane. One of the big steps, as you mentioned, they haven't been able to contest any of these dragons. One of the reasons is not being able to get Sniper into these fights. Another big reason is this tier 1 turret in bottom lane and mid lane. They just can't get them down. They can't get the pressure to take those standing objectives down. And now even more pressure going into the bottom lane.
A double flank here from Manui and Phi Mini. They do manage to get Meech out of there, but they are just going to turn right on to Duo King to try to finish him off instead. Young comes in from the flank, gets hit by the Cyclone. They did manage to finish off Toasty, but they lose 2 members in the trade. And now here comes Kizno into the back line as Sniper does the same on the opposite side. A flash forward from Sniper to finish off Phi Mini, but look at Hoarder, fully stacked up on the Cultivation of War, and Kizno pretty close to full health as well. He's going to finish off one carry, and it's a flash in from Hoarder to take down the other, an ace to Milk.
They got all their members down there, but again, just such key performances out of Kizno, out of Manui. As soon as Young arrives, had everything prepared to one-shot Toasty or Phi Mini, but he gets knocked up by the Cyclone, has to flash to reposition, and eventually does get off that unleashed power, but it's on to Toasty Alex, who was already pretty much dead. So essentially wastes that cooldown. It causes Sniper to have to flash into the backline just to secure the kill onto Phi Mini. Then he has to run to get Manui down. All that time being spent. Meanwhile, Hoarder is destroying the other backline. Meech never able to find an entryway into that fight safely. Another huge fight going the way of Milk Esports. The snowball keeps rolling. They've got the Otacon, 2 minutes until Seoul. It's going to start to be desperate times for Conviction. They've got to try and find a pick here soon.
Yeah, just not able to get the fight started on their own terms. They're not able to get good ultimates out of Tomio. Young has just not been having a game in this game number 2. Really, once again, is just getting bullied by Kizno each and every opportunity. And in that last fight, he comes in from the jungle, kind of just has to flash in the middle of 3 people and get cycloned on top of. He does basically nothing, and they need to find a way for this Syndra to be valuable for them to ever have a chance of winning out on these team fights because of the consistent damage coming in from Rise as well as the rest of the squad. Frankly, they have damage threats across the board on Milk, on everybody but Rakan, and not very much tankiness on Conviction to withstand it all once Unbreakable Will does go down. The Otacon in tow, Milk now going to have themselves a sizable XP advantage. You can see they're 2 levels up in mid thanks to that Rod of Ages. Phi Mini now fully upgraded on the Rise, has his both stacking items completed and has the fully enhanced overload. He's going to hit like a truck, and the rest of the squad, they're not far behind.
Absolutely, and now a collapse onto Sniper in this top lane. Does have their tier 1 turret to retreat to. And with Manui being the only ones going, Dominus will get procced. Teleport coming in mid lane. They want to go all the way onto Meech.
Yeah, it's just Kizno so far ahead in this game. He can solo kill Meech through Duo King in the middle of mid lane. 3 members of Conviction go down while they're simultaneously ganking top. Just a complete collapse here from Conviction as Milk are running the map. Hoarder fully stacked up on the Cultivation of War. Dive in mid lane going to be nice and easy as Phi Mini roam warps into the back line. A clean ace for Milk as they win fights on 2 fronts.
Just stomping across the entire map. Ace from 2 separate fights. Now Hoarder continues pushing. Phi Mini is going to go mid, and they're going to get the Baron. Incredible play by Milk Esports across the map. Kizno obviously the driving force. I don't even know if he needed Toasty Alex and Phi Mini in that mid lane fight. After killing Meech, probably could have easily turned on the other 2 members, cleaned up those kills. And aside from all of these split up fights, aside from obviously the gold advantages that have now been gained over on the side of Milk Esports, sitting at 7.5K across the entire team, the big issue is they keep having to take these fights 5v5 front to back. This is not how they were built to fight, as now we're going to see Last Dragon is secured by Conviction.
CC coming through on towards Meech, who is trying his best to kite out on the other side. A great stun on a Hoarder before Cultivation of War can be stand up. And now Duo King trying to buy a bunch of time at the bottom lane, but Meech will be finished off by 5 Mini. Does not have the time to keep throwing through the damage. And finally, Toasty Alex sees his moment to jump into the back line with a huge killer instinct and clean up the triple kill. Milk Esports looked a little dicey for a second, but they show up in the team fight all the same.
Those are the fights that just feel so tragic if you're a Conviction fan, especially if you're a Conviction player. You find the pick immediately onto Hoarder. You think, okay, now is our chance. We can come back. Even Kizno goes in, has the Guardian Angel popped, and you say, oh my god, we have a 3v5 for a moment. And then Toasty Alex hits the Void Seeker, flies into your backline, one-shots the Renekton follow-up onto Young. I mean, for a moment, they may have felt like they had it, but it all collapses. They did get the dragon. They did get an objective bounty and a big kill onto Hoarder. It should buy them some time. Obviously, bottom lane inhibitor does go down in the aftermath, but they do not have much more time. That may have been their last chance. A Guardian Angel is about to come through for Hoarder. Zhonya's just immediately found out on vision.
Yeah, Tomio recalling on a ward in the tri-brush. Unlucky. And Manui will pop the ghost off the summoner's spellbook to rush in, and just in time to clean up the kill. Backs on away, but it's just Milk showing their control over the map here. They've won multiple fights in a row, and the reward for that is you do get deep wards, and you do find the opponent with their pants down. 5 Mini now gets good damage onto Sniper. That's the other frontliner forced to retreat away. Duo King just trying to create a little bit of space for Meech to clear out this wave, but a Roamorp into the backline, gonna bring some minions, and also gonna bring in Tomio, or rather Kizno, who starts spinning through with the Cyclone. 1 kill already onto Meech. There's the CC onto Young. A flash Grim Deliverance comes through from Hoarder to just take down the rest of the members. Young stays alive just barely. 5 Mini drops down to the Nexus turrets, but it's another fight win for Milk, and it's one that will give them at least one inhibitor. Nui nearly picked off by Young. Now they're going to have to retreat.
Hoarder wants to stay, though. He was waiting on the other side of that wall. He was hoping that someone would come over to try and finish off Manui. I don't know what season is. That fight felt like one of those season 9 fights where everyone's got a stopwatch. I thought that Realm Warp was a bit troll under that turret, but he immediately stopwatches as soon as he lands. Toasty Alex uses that killer instinct for better positioning, and when it looked like Sniper might have a turn angle, uses their Zhonya's to wait for better timing. And this game is 5 Mini showing where they wanted to get last game on the Azir. Duo King's hooks prevented them from having good positioning in a lot of those fights, but now on this rise, tearing through anyone unlucky enough to walk up and get in range. Manui going to get caught out here.
Ooh. Blown up by the unleashed power that is an ultimate utilized by the mid lane, but certainly are going to be a valuable pick for Conviction. Gives them a tiny bit of breathing room, knowing that Rakan's not going to engage onto them. But the consistent problem for Conviction here is going to be that Zehen. And I think these last 2 fights kind of show the impossible decision that Zehen forces on your opponents once he gets into the game here. You need to dump so many resources into one-shot him before he stacks up passive. And they did that a whole 2 team fights ago, and they just lose on the rest of the Franks. As now here's going to be another engage coming through from Kizno. They don't care that they're down Rakan. They're going to take this team fight anyway. Let's see if Conviction can make them pay for it. It is a full-on 5 versus 4, but 2 members have already fallen down, and 5 Mini just pumping out the damage off of the spell fluxes. It will end up being a 1 for 2.
They do so much on that front line. It takes so long to kill this Wukong. Stopping off to buy that Guardian Angel. Is going for some more damage items. Has the Black Cleaver now trying to open up some opportunities for Toasty and Hoarder, and can stack it up so quickly with the auto attack reset being on that crushing blow. But still, the Monkey King is very hard to kill at this point. Young ends up actually saving the entire game by showing up there with the threat of Scatter the Weak. Means that those members of Milk Esports can't look to close the gap, look to essentially end the game. We do have 5 seconds until Soul Point or Soul Spawns, could be for Milk Esports. Conviction does have members here to contest. The rest of their team coming in the back. This could be the fight of the game. Deep positioning being found already from Milk, and Kizno has respawned, walking down. Oh, going in early.
Diving in now, 5 Mini takes a huge chunk of damage, has to go into the stasis, but Young with a perfectly timed scatter will keep him CC'd and finish him off. But now Kizno right back into his old habits, isolates and completely destroys Young. Down goes Sniper as well. Duo King cut away from the rest of his team, getting poked away by Toasty Alex with those Void Seekers over the wall, and the remaining frontliners are going to hunt him down, slowed up by a smite and finished off by Hoarder. 3-4-1. Milk win the fight yet again, secure themselves the dragon, and will march in to finish off the game. Meech gonna try his best to cut off this wave, but a 4-man strong squad of Milk will put him in the dirt to close it out and even up this series. Milk Esports make it 1-1.
And it was about as good of a fight as you could ask for. If you're a Conviction fan, Tomio pulls the trigger immediately, forces the stopwatch. They still get the kill onto 5 Mini, but you really have to get 2 of 3, as I am extremely spaced out from that team fight at the end there. You have to get at least 2 of Toasty, 5 Mini, and Kizno if you're going to win one of those fights. And only getting 5 Mini means that Toasty is able to use that killer instinct to fly into Sniper, get that kill there. And I mean, that fight went the way so many others did in this game. Kizno just completely taking over. Toasty Alex quietly in the background, performing incredibly well on the Kaisa, which should get some bigger shout outs. Toasty coming in later in the night. Then other, subbing in, also a mid laner primarily. So playing very well in both of these games. I feel like the momentum could heavily swing in Milk's favor.
Yeah, I would add Hoarder to that list of champions that you need to be able to kill, and that was kind of the point I was making there. Is you need to execute him before he stacks up the full wave, or the full passive rather, and if you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you kill him before he stacks it up, that's so many resources you use that you can't use on the real carries. And if you don't, then he is a backline threat in and of himself, and you can't even kill him. He's got a whole second health bar in the back end. So very, very tough game to play out there. Great win from Milk. I do get to throw things back on over to our desk now, but I do want to give one more piece of news. Tenacity will be back in for game number 3. Full bans back available for Conviction as they do get their starting top laner back and move Sniper back into the free agency pool where he was prior to tonight. With that in mind, take it away, Orbital and Sneezes.
Welcome back to the desk. We had an interesting game after the, I want to say, strong performance in game number 1 from Conviction. Game number 2 felt much more like a fist fight. Of course, you can take a look at the gold heavily dropping into Milk Esports' favor. You call it the picks and all, but the beneficiaries of the Zaheen, the Rise, the Kaisa, and the Rakan even in this entire fight, it felt like it all came from Kizno and a lot of very specific picks.
Yeah, and this is a game that Conviction wants back, right? Like, this is kind of a comedy of errors around that 18-20 minute mark. I think we were talking, off to the side, they're up like 4K gold at 15 minutes. That, your B1 Yunara has 3 kills. Your Renekton's gotten a couple solo kills. Like, the game is booked. Like, this is a remake scrim kind of angle. And so I want to give a lot of credit to Kizno. He kept him in with the Drakes, and then he was a big part of the counter ganks and the hovers that got them the picks, that got them back into the game, and then ultimately snowballed super hard after 20 minutes.
Yeah, I got a little bit chaotic, and there was one point in there that you did mention that I really want to pin on. CNV were up in the early game for a brief period. As you mentioned, they were up about 3K in that range, and it did center on Toasty. A big part of games 1 and 2 Conviction have very specifically been trying to funnel a lot of the gold into Toasty Alex here in the bot lane, a sub stepping in, primarily a mid laner, and yet they started to get over eager at some points. We're going to take a look at a replay at 12:15 into the game where we saw Toasty utilizing that gold as much as possible. And then it felt like CMV maybe got overconfident, got a little bit too in over their heads, which resulted in Milk getting a lot of nice kills.
Yeah, this is a bit of a fast play from blue side, and it really gives Milk the opportunity to come back in the game. I thought we had a different replay. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's all good. Toasty played this fine.
Oh no, they did.
Oh no, this is all the heavy trading. Yeah, this is the one where where Kizno lives with 1 HP. Yeah. Sorry.
So the reason we pulled this up is this is where we started seeing things get a little bit scattered, and one of the big things that I think I remember I called for this one is because in the top side, I think we actually saw some chaotic nature. Keep in mind, in the early stages, CNV actually got a lot of solo kills. We saw first blood being drawn, I believe, in the top side as well. And what we actually missed there at the very end was the fact that Zaheen or I believe Hoarder
Hoarder gets a grab back solo kill.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's on like ninja tabbies and heel cut armor, like he's on no offense versus completed item Renekton, and just managed to clutch out the solo kill with the revive. So Zaheen completely broken, and it was those like kind of sloppy, like fast plays from CNV where they had a lead but they didn't follow through on their setup that gave Milk the opportunity to come back.
Yeah, it's where we saw a lot of those kills come through, and you saw a smattering of them throughout the entirety of the game. But we are going to draw a replay here at about 22 minutes, is where Sneezes, you and I saw this kind of culmination of Kizno getting so much for the team, and finally these beneficiaries who had been banking all this gold, utilizing these kills over and over, picking on Young in the mid lane. It came to this point in the bot side where you just watch CMV just fall apart.
Yeah, I really like the hovers from Kizno here. He's enabling his laners to come up and take this tower, and then this just becomes a huge 5v5. I thought Sniper had a chance to clean up here. You know, a Renekton in the middle of 4 people is usually pretty effective. But Kizno just played this so well. His spacing was really excellent, and he's diving on the damage dealers and punishing, his spike. He's like 1.5, 2 items here, and just using Wukong the way he should be played. And there's a reason it's a priority pick, right?
Mm-hmm. It's such a powerful pick, and the fact that Kizno was able to do this throughout the entire game actually lended itself to something Milk Esports weren't able to do in game number 1, which in game number 1, they started stacking dragons a little bit earlier, but because of all these smatterings of kills, we actually saw Milk Esports be able to land on Soul Point very, very quickly in this game, which Sneezes, you pointed out, which rightfully so, and I'm sure the casters did as well. I was actually listening in a bit. It ended up dragging CNV into what felt like a horrendous decision, which they didn't have a choice to fight for that 4th Drake.
Yeah, this was post Baron. I think Milk had just pulled the Baron off of a pick, and then CNV has to run for that Drake, because if Milk gets the reset, he gets to push waves in. It's just over. So they just are sprinting at this Drake. The map is not set up at all. Like Vision is not set up. They get the Drake, great. They denied the soul, but they're just getting wiped here. And I think they fought it pretty well, like hands wise and hitting your skills. They fought it pretty well, but there's no way for them to play. The Meech is not safe here at all. The positioning is really challenging. And from here, just they break the bottom Nexus tower, and then it's like a very easy closeout from Milk's position.
Yeah, these last few fights that you saw from that dragon onwards was essentially the fallout from what we watched in the mid game. It felt like that fallout of, I mean, dude, Milk made it happen. Kizno masterclass on that Wukong, and made sure it happens. When you get these power picks, you need to make this work, because we have to remember Milk fell in game number 1. We're now back at a 1-1 series, and you're essentially playing a BO3 locked out of 20 champions, and we need to make sure Milk are able to do this maybe a little bit more skillfully instead of dropping 2 early kills in the start of the game. We do hope they can rock out a little bit better, but again, CNV still had the hands in there. If they come into this game 3 maybe looking at that blue side once again, saying hey, or the red side saying let's go ahead, try and get these counter picks, that might be what they want to look at.
Yeah, it's also some of Tenacity's champions are out, but that's okay. He has a big pool. I just want to see Conviction take a deep breath and play a little more disciplined. I think when Milk is winning in these two games that we saw, it's when CNV is playing too fast. They're snap engaging without follow up and without vision, and they're overextending and being punished for it. So I want them to like follow through on the setup. These are veteran players. They know how to do these setups and these objectives. These are like routine things that I know they know how to do. So I think it's just play a little bit slower, and I think we'll probably see them bounce back this next game.
Well, especially with Tenacity coming back in, you heard Gordo say it. Being able to drop Tenacity right back into the main lineup, it's not like Sniper did poorly in any of these games. It's just, hey, having your main top laner come back in is going to feel much more comfortable. That doesn't change what champions were played. Obviously, the Series Fearless is Series Fearless, meaning now Tenacity isn't able to play the likes of that Renekton, the likes of that Riven. But of course, I don't think you're really worried about that. When you look at Tenacity's champ pool, there's plenty to work with.
No Cyan or Zaheen too.
Yep.
I'm interested to see if they do like the Rumble Galio trade. That was a very popular trade in the summer. I think Gwen will be picked. Aurora will get looked at. Ornn, Jace. There's a lot of options still left in the top lane. So I think the one champ I would not want to give to Tenacity is Renekton. So definitely happy for Milk that's out, but it's not like Tenacity's short on champions. So.
Yeah, that's 100% fair. You go ahead and just have a free fire with it, and we'll see if they can pull it off here. As we have gotten word, I thought CNV actually chose blue side, is what we heard. However, we are going to confirm that before we go any further. Right now, you see Milk Esports on that blue side. It might be a little shift in there, and this can still determine what's going on. So we have gotten confirmation Milk is on blue side right now. So they have actually CNV chose red, is what we're understanding here. So they have shifted over there. They said, okay, let's go ahead, get those counter picks, and let's see if they can throw down well.
Yeah, and we're kind of running out of spicy jungle options. There's still a couple, but I'm interested to see, like, do we go back to some of the meta junglers from summer? Like Vi's still up, Zinzal's still up, Pantheon's still up, all very popular. Jarvan, Trundle. That was kind of the meta in summer, but with like Kiana, Aatrox, Ambessa off the board, it'll be interesting to see how this jungle pool lines up.
Yeah, well, right now we go ahead and start target focusing a few of those oddball picks. The Nidalee has made its way onto the ban list and will stay there now for Milk Esports. They went ahead and implemented that in game number 2. However, last time it was in game 1. Yeah, this is very specifically though an idea of the factor that it was in the second round last time. So I'm curious if they have a different focus on where they want to draft it. Rumble, though, there is no handshake. Sorry, Sneezes. Rumble's still off the table.
No handshake. Maybe game 5. We'll see. I also think it's interesting to me that Milk is banning these AP junglers, because I'm curious if they're going to put Toasty, if they're going to keep playing ADCs for Toasty. Not saying he can't play them. He's played pretty well. He had a great game last game. And even game 1, I think he was a bright spot on the Jhin. But I'm curious, like, as the champion pools get narrower, you have a player who's really well known for mages and like Yone and a lot of interesting champions in the mid lane. I'm wondering if we start seeing more of a shift to his normal champion pool as the AD pool gets pinched down.
Yeah,
Victor, right? You see, that's a toasty ban. That is a toasty ban.
You're saying, look, okay, they might look may look to dip into this pool here very shortly. So we'll go ahead and start kind of taking those out, which, as you said, 100% agree with. Of course, you don't have the Syndra, which is also a primary AP in the bot side. Mel is still on the table if you really want to get messy with it and start looking at those rebuttals in there. But the last ban to come out, Milk, focusing in that jungle role. Are you going to still focus in that jungle role one more time? Or will you toss out a ban somewhere else? Still got mid, still got top, still got conventional ADCs, and they go with the Senna. Okay.
I really like the Senna, a lot of flexibility. Yeah, Senna's just such a good champion, man. Like, I can't. It gives you so much. Like, you can do Senna Yasuo. You can do Senna as an AD. Like, there's so many options with Senna. So, really, really hoping it's meta next year because it's probably one of my favorite champs from a coaching and like game planning perspective. But makes sense they want to like simplify this draft sequence from CNV. So B1 Xin Zhao, okay,
Ooh.
a little spicy.
Yeah, I mean,
I want to see Talia Poppy or something like that. I want to see the Talia. Do not give Milk Talia Xin together unless you have a really great answer.
All right, well, we'll test that. Listen, when we see the answer, because I feel like CNV might do it just to try and give it over, this might be it. The Jax outright, though, and we've seen Jax go in the jungle before. It is a flex into that top side as well, but it's a
classic Xin Zhao counter. It's an old school Xin Zhao jungle counter is the Jax. So nope, they're going top.
Oh.
Jax Vi, they're just saying, yeah, we're playing through Tenacity, one of Tenacity's best champs. He's saying I can 1v9 the game, I can blind this champ. Just give me oh wait, nope. Recall. Canceled. What I mean,
listen,
it is like a thing I would expect, honestly. Like Tomio's quite good at Vi, Tenacity's quite good at Jax. Like we'll see what happens, but it would not shock me if that's the actual answer. And but maybe just
I do gotta ask though, because obviously we know Vi wasn't actually picked at this point. Sneezes,
Holly, okay.
What would you do with a recall button on a pick? Would that cause chaos in these situations?
If I could yoink a pick like mid draft, like if I could pick some, like it's getting into it would be like it all depends on when. Like if I could slam if I could slam a champion on B1 and then like yoink it after R5, like yeah, it's the most OP thing in the game. But if it just means I have like a redo on a bad pick, like yeah, I don't know. It depends. It depends. I like this though. I like the Jace Aurora. You have a really strong top side. You have nice damage split. You can pick whatever you want in the bot lane, which is kind of something I want to start seeing from Milk as the series progresses. Like you have Toasty Manui. You know, I mean, this could even be like Jace AD. Honestly, I don't think it is, but it could be.
Yeah, I mean, the Talia was also mentioned, but even Milk opted away from it when they saw the Akali come out, which has been banned throughout the entirety of the series so far. So CMV getting a chance to toss Young a favor in there as well. Target focusing the ADC role now as we go ahead and see the Ezreal cooking, or not so much as they're benched for this current game. And then there is the Renata Glass. So Milk starting to focus a little bit, saying we need a way to bring the Xin Zhao in closer and make sure there's no answer from the side of CNV. Multiple support bans on one side, CNV banning out multiple ADCs.
And they end up with the Vi anyway, so I mean, we'll see. I don't know if that's locked, but I like the Varus. You have to match range for range with Jace. If you have no range with Jace, it's really hard. The Sivir is interesting. I think you have to get through the laning phase, but again, like so much utility for the Xin Zhao, so much enablement on the Aurora and the Jace. Like it's close. It's close. It really depends on the support pick here. And Poppy, it's good to Akali, good to Jax, okay to Vi. Like I don't love it, to be honest, but okay. R5 Braum, yeah. I think we go on CNV. They have the go buttons. They have the engage tools. I think Milk's draft is a little harder to play, but if those solo lanes get going, it gets really ugly really quickly.
Yeah, I can agree with that again. And it did feel like even in game number 2, we were talking about CMV had a really good composition. We saw that their comp actually worked in the early stages as well. Main thing for them, though, is they made individual in-game mistakes that you and I did not enjoy that much. So my question is, are they going to be able to clean it up here? And will they have the conviction to try and run this third game to their favor? Or will the spilled milk slip them up? We'll see how it goes down. So let's go ahead and toss it back to the caster desk of Gordo as well as Jack to see how this game turns out.
Thank you very much, Orbital. Happy to be back on Summoner's Rift for game number 3. Happy to have the full, or at least listed, lineups for both of these teams, as we do find Tenacity back in the lineup for Conviction. See how he's going to be able to perform up against Hoarder, who is going to be on the Jace. I'm shocked that we see a Jace and it's not in the jungle, Jack.
I took the words right out of my mouth. When I saw it get picked, I was like, well, they already got Xin Zhao, and Xin Zhao doesn't really go top very often and would be a bad matchup into Jax. I'm so used to these top lane flexes into jungle just always going jungle now. And even on the analyst test, everyone thought that Jax was instant locked into the jungle. So it's good to see that these picks still provide some flexibility, can still go towards that top side. The thing I'm most worried about for this game is Conviction's ability to utilize some of this aggression they've grabbed. I do feel like Milk has tools to, at least in the mid game, get away from some of the worst of what Conviction has with the Crescent Guard, with the steadfast presence as Young, showing off why this Akali has been banned so many times. Just walking forward, taking an early trade. I also love this Varus pick. I think he shifted down the prio list way too far after a couple of nerfs. Went from the first pick in almost every game to rarely picked at all. I still think that this champ is very strong.
Definitely. And a pick that Meech has got a lot of experience on as well. Expecting usually to see a more lethality-focused Varus build, but he does have the lethal tempo this time, so might be going for a more traditional DPS setup. Does have Tomio for the engage and Young for the assassination on his Akali. He does love his assassins and when he's able to get onto him, so very excited for that matchup here as well. Tenacity gonna get knocked back away by a Hoarder on the Jace there, and Hoarder looking to build up an early lane advantage. He's got it in health, but not quite in CS yet.
Really excited to see Tenacity come back in here. Anyone who's a fan of League of Legends, period, especially Tier 2 and ACL, has known that this has been a very tumultuous year for Tenacity. Happy to see them getting a spot, playing well down the stretch. Happy to see them get to play here in these upper bracket finals on a squad they've grinded on for this entire split. And, you know, on the other side, Hoarder getting to bring out what is one of their most played champions in these leagues, one of their most played in solo queue as well. Going to be showing off that 96 game, 52% win rate Jace they've been climbing the ladder with. But other than that, I feel like Manui showing off so much in the previous games could truly make game-winning type plays on this Poppy pick.
Definitely. Manui, a big fan of some of these playmakers and very well adept at this Poppy. You would love to see high-level support Poppy play. Feels like there is a lot of autonomy it puts into your hands there to be able to dictate how these fights are going to be played, both the Keeper's Verdict and the Steadfast Presence, to control what options are available to your opponents. It's going to make life pretty difficult for folks like Tomio, who kind of have to commit a hard engage button from range with that cease and desist, and will give a big opportunity for Manui to dictate how these fights play out. 5 Mini now behind Young, who's low on HP, looking for a solo kill here. Right on top of him, lands another twofold hex, looking for the solo bolo. Young will flash away, 5 Mini chases, and the weirding will connect. First blood, solo kill, 5 Mini.
It's what he's been looking for all series. Has so much jungle intervention in the last game. First game honestly got quite bullied in the matchup, but finally exerting some force in that lane, showing off the Young prospect against Young, who ironically is much more experienced of these two players. But on this Akali, teleports, gets right back to lane, wants to continue pushing forward, trying to make Aurora flinch. Now we're gonna see a 2v2 here.
Yeah, good chain damage on towards Kisno. He's going to have to try to escape with all his might, and he will be able to slip on out of there. Quick, audacious charge onto the minions to create some space back away. Manui going to get stunned up, has to use the summoner heal. Toasty's returning good damage onto Meech and Duo King, though, especially once that unbreakable shield expires, and will be able to keep the health bar low. Aggressively trading now with the Boomerang Blade. A flash in from Manui. Gonna get met with a flash out from Meech, but the slow plus piercing arrow will allow the Conviction bot lane to win out the trade and finish off Manui. Kill credit to Duo King.
Incredible patience shown there by Meech and Duo King. I really thought they'd overstepped, but they still have barrier available. They turn it back around. Meech waits to use the arrow until that Winter's Bite lands. Toasty, Tenacity, flash forward.
Yeah, Conviction wanted that kill. Tenacity flashing for it with the ult buffer. Nearly able to take out Hoarder, but Hoarder able to get back away with a flash of his own in time. But Kizno without the damage, and Xin Zhao versus Jax, not a very easy 1v1 to win thanks to Counter-Strike. Dodging out on your best and most reliable damage tool in those auto attacks. So they will both back on away. Dead even in CS in the top lane, by the way, with both of these players on picks that are really representative of how they have liked to play the top lane throughout their careers.
Kizno showing once again how active they can be on the map, affecting mid, going right up to top lane, trying to make a play. Another thing I want to comment on is Meech's decision, likely decision here to go on hit. I think it makes a lot of sense in this game. You've got a low range mage, you've got a top laner who is going to go melee in a lot of scenarios, then obviously Poppy's and Zhao, Sivir's low range. So you have a lot of champs that are going to give you uptime throughout the course of team fights, can start ramping up a ton of damage. And as long as it's not crit, I think we should be seeing a pretty good damage output on the Varus here. Doesn't have 6 yet, but this could be an opportunity to get a lot of poke damage down. Nope, they don't walk up all the way. They'd like to take the CS from these waves upcoming as we see the gold difference. Small lead for Hoarder, and quite a sizable one opening up in this mid lane thanks to that earlier solo kill.
And Tomio ticking over to level 6 now, truly active on the Vi with the full suite of abilities available. And yeah, this is going to be interesting to watch. Tomio in his pro career has always been a little bit more of an enabler, right? The Sejuanis, the Maokais, the Vais. But that's not what the meta's been lately, and he's been doing great on stuff like the Ambessa and the Aatrox. Now that we're deeper into Fearless and we're on these more traditional jungle picks, I want to see how much he can make this Vi work for the rest of his team. He does have very talented players across the board. As of right now, Kizno working on the grubs. Here's going to be the engage. They full send it on towards Manui. Tenacity right on top of them, but double pumped out. Going to try to create some space. Young tries to dive in and clean up the kill, but he's slammed into the wall, and Manui will claim the kill, and he deserves it because of how much he did on that play.
Ask and he shall deliver. Manui, we wanted to see big game-winning plays, fight-winning plays out of this guy, and he showed it there. The double keeper's verdict, heroic charge before Akali is able to go invis in the shroud, secures them, the man advantage, grabs all 3 grubs thanks to it, and the immediately reset back onto the map, pushing that top wave, that mid wave. Really good macro and micro displayed in that one team fight by Milk. Svi sees the back, knows that he's got a friend in the area. Toasty playing aggressive, is going to take a ton of damage here from the spear.
Yeah, and there's going to be the barrier available for Meech as well. Gives him that last little bit of tankiness, but at the end of the day, it is flash blown from Toasty. Meech didn't even have it. And you know what? The AD carry main compared to the mid lane main, maybe a little bit better of an idea of what the damage thresholds are here down here. And Meech comes out on top in that trade.
Yeah, shocker. Meech knowing exactly how much he could withstand, exactly how much they could put out, and Toasty a little bit overzealous there, but I'd rather see aggression out of my Sivir than being super passive. The classic support Sivir you see that doesn't get any kills, just gets assists on everything, no damage. So at least like seeing Toasty pushing the envelope there, also going for the Yuntal's build, not going for the Essence Reaver build, means that they are going to spike a bit sooner, get into this game faster, and try and start affecting these team fights. Because as we were talking about Varus's reason to go on hit, you look at the other side for Sivir, you've got 4 of the 5 players on melee champions. The ricochets are going to be grand in these team fights. The only question is, can Toasty Alex scale to the point where the damage ends up being meaningful in those team fights, and Dragon has spawned now. No real priority on it yet. And to piggyback on a point you made earlier, Tomio, I'm also very excited on a champ that can facilitate for this guy. Has proven to be so good at it. Won 2 ACL splits on those types of junglers, and having a Jax and a Kali going to prove that once again this is the style they dominate on.
Yeah, and you know, won those titles playing alongside Meech as well. So got some pre-existing synergy there. Is an engage going to come on through? It's going to be Hoarder finishing off the kill, and Kizno will be traded right back. So a 1-for-1 on a dive, and then Milk started. Milk not going to be super thrilled about that, but I do think they're going to be able to finish off first tower off the back.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, when you're Conviction, you'll take that. You're not too afraid of the scaling just yet past when you get this soul point, because on hit Varus, I would say scales a bit better than lethality, or at least falls off later in the game. You're going to be more useful in these team fights, having a lot of auto attack damage coming through, and it's just about positioning later on. Conviction has not yet in this series liked to draft any sort of simple front to back. They've looked for some angles, especially in this game with the Jax, with the Akali. They'd like to come at you from multiple different angles. They don't want a simple just run straight at your front line, as now Young, huge opportunity.
Yeah, but now going to need to back away as Kizno and Hoarder are smelling blood in the water and looking to finish him off. We'll be able to dash back away in time. Now going to be a little bit of peacetime. Tomio was still clearing out jungle that whole way. He's starting to build himself up a little bit of a lead. Not that it's going to be the biggest difference maker in the world on the Vi. It's a reason Vi with kills was a bit of a meme in ACL for a while, as it frequently struggles to convert on those into big leads, and it's going to be true of any kind of gold lead that you do put on that champion. I appreciate that you brought up Tomio's NACL titles, though, because this is a little bit of a reunion tour, this Conviction team, for that original disguised team that did win that first split of NACL. That was Tomio and Young and Meech all playing together, and now they're reunited here on this Conviction lineup.
I also believe that Tenacity would go on to play for Disguise later, and Manui
Later on
the other side saying, "Oh, I want to be a part of that reunion too, guys." But unfortunately,
them, though.
Yeah,
Doesn't
and
count.
he's getting to play the redemption pop. He's sprinting around the map, making huge plays, and coming into this split as well, you not only have those reunions, but you have players that, when they did separate, went on to do big things. This year with Luminosity, 2 in a row. Tomio bringing that experience playing with those players. Duo King also now coming into this spot as a sub. I think he's played pretty great in all 3 games. One of the big reasons they won that game 1. And now that we have this even, series state 1-1, you can kind of feel that mental reset coming out of both teams, where yes, Milk just won last game, but after that first blood, it kind of feels like that momentum isn't turning into like a massive snowball. Both teams have mentally reset, at least you can say so for Conviction after last game. They're coming into this, and the map play by Milk Esports is really what's been granting them this advantage, their ability to hover, to get to these lanes, and we're seeing it now in top.
Yeah, Hoarder doing a great job of starting off this fight, gets Tenacity with no escape options available, and brings up the rest of the cavalry in the form of Kizno and Manui to guarantee that they're able to finish off that fight. And this is great timing as well. The Rift Herald having just spawned, Milk should be very favored to be able to secure this one. They're even recalling Mini to TP if need be, so he's well set up to match Young no matter what Young goes for. But a little bit of a moment of vulnerability here. Hoarder kept on pushing the top lane, but Manui recalled, so he doesn't have any backup anymore. Just gonna pump all the damage into this inner turret that he can, but he will be executed by Tomio.
We now see also Meech moving towards that Rift Herald. 2000 HP. They are going to go for a steal here.
They do manage to pick it on up, but Tomio's right in there. Toasty doing his best to return fire, but this is 3 members versus 2. Conviction win out the fight. They TP in both solo laners, maybe a little bit more than was necessary. They do pick up that kill and do find themselves with 2 kills total in exchange for the 1 kill in Rift Herald that Milk were able to pick up.
Kisno does pick up the Rift Herald in the end, and we saw in that earlier fight as good reset, I should say, from Meech comes out here. Manui going to just sprint away, uses that hammer shock. Though Vimini didn't recall all the way, still here.
Yeah, fight breaking out. Duo King going to be isolated here, and they will try to finish him off. But look at this damage from Meech. He's doing his best to pump in from the side. It is still a numbers advantage for Milk, though. Manui going to try to stun him into the wall. Doesn't get the stun. Gets traded back onto Meech. Still kiting it out. Finds a double kill. But Mini arrives and is finally able to take them both down. The numbers advantage does pay off for Milk at the end of the day, but Young wants to make it a 3-for-2. On top of Mini, forces him to take a turret shot, puts him between a rock and a hard place, and Young will get his first of the game.
Unfortunate timings really overshadow some great plays made there by Meech. Procs the concussive blows onto Toasty Alex, so no damage should come out the other way. Gets 2 kills there, and then obviously Mini able to pick up 3 over the course of that fight. This Aurora is going to be a massive problem. Young gets there finally to grab a kill in response. When we look at the team comp for Conviction, like I said, they want to find angles. They don't want to just run at you in front to back. And when you've got an Aurora this far ahead with the threat of just annihilating you in an instant in one spell rotation, it's going to make finding those angles so much more difficult. You have to have perfect vision. You have to know every place the enemy could be. And when Milk Esports got Kisno on the team, whose superpower throughout this series, how they perform so well in every game is just they're always in the right place. They're always where the fight is. It's going to be so much harder for Conviction to find these winning scenarios throughout the rest of the game.
Big turret taken mid, and they're just going to guide the Rift Herald back on over here so that they can get to the Dragon incredibly quickly. Kisno using that mobility tool here, but here comes the rest of Conviction looking for a fight. They psychin off Toasty Alex, and they will be able to finish him off, but the Dragon is secure on the opposite side, and Meech now gonna get focused down in much the same manner. Hoarder comes in off the teleport. The solo laners for Conviction have no such tools available, and Milk will clean up 2 for 1 plus the Dragon.
Yeah, an interesting take on the Classic saying, you think you're flanking us? No, we're flanking you. They do get the kill on to Toasty Alex, but Hoarder teleports in behind. They're able to get rid of the entire bottom lane of Conviction. Really well played by Milk. That could have been disastrous if they just find their ADC down. Aurora gets picked off next, and then you get Dragon, but you lose all your tempo. You're giving over a ton of gold. Instead, they turn it into a massive win on top of the Dragon. Now we see for a second there, I thought that was Jungle Poppy versus Vi, versus Vi Jungle, and I was thinking, damn, Manui's way far behind. But that's one of the few positions that Manui hasn't played professionally is jungle.
True, true. Someday he will, and then he'll become the Avatar. He masters all of the roles, but for right now, he is just sitting on 3 competitive roles. Done very well on all of them, though, and I really do think support is his best one, right? He's only gotten to play 1 ACL split of it, but this role just suits him so well, and I don't just say that because as a bot laner, he was known for playing the bot lane, Seraphine. He's just so good at positioning in the right places. His vision game has really stepped up very well. I think that's been somewhere that Milk has been stronger than Conviction throughout this series, and so far made some big plays on the Poppy. Looking to make another one down here. As Hoarder and Tenacity do exchange some blows. The Otacon already being worked on. I don't know that Milk is aware of this, but they're going to find out as Duo King, chased by Manui, comes on in. He immediately channels the ultimate and punts out Meech. Great fight angle for Milk as they engage onto Tenacity onto the bottom side. It's a 2 versus 1. Duo King going to get targeted on the opposite side. A 3 versus 1. His health bar falling lower and lower. Flash stun into the wall. Onto Tomio from Manui. Meech comes back to the fight, but is cut down as soon as he shows up. Young desperately trying to trade anything back, but he cannot do it. A clean ace for Milk.
You said it perfectly. Desperation is what that play reeked of. Even before they get engaged on, going for that Otacon, so greedy. You see all the wards in the enemy red jungle. They knew they were coming. They knew that they were shifting down to that bottom side. They went for it anyway. As soon as Varus gets kicked out with the Keeper's Verdict, the call has to be run, but they wait long enough for the Between Worlds to go down. Now there's no escape, and then you see flashes used by Tenacity, and Young dives onto the backline just to try and get a kill onto Toasty Alex. Getting that Sivir's not going to give you anything. As you see, huge job by Manui, dodges the Glacial Fissure as well to make sure it goes off, and sure, Tenacity does a good job fending off the carry members, at least the ranged carry members, but now you get here and it's just over all across the back of this team fight. They try to get a response, but no luck, no dice. Heal comes through, and great job by Milk Esports, who are now completely in control of this game.
Definitely. Now almost 4K in their favor. 90 seconds to go on to the next dragon. They've already stopped Conviction from stacking, so they're a good 10 plus minutes out from Conviction being able to secure themselves a Dragon Soul. It would only be the Cloud Soul, even if they did. Not the most useful on champions like Vi. Still plenty useful on champions like Akali, but I don't know if it's going to be enough to offset the difference here. 7-1-3. I want to highlight Phi Mini here, who's been playing an excellent game as well. Took an early lead in the laning phase and is not letting go. Now being able to show up with these big Between Worlds across the fights in kind of those tight areas, especially like the Otacon, just so valuable, and gives Milk the opportunity to be able to close this out even while Toasty is heavily pressured. Now we got 45 seconds on this next dragon. That's what's on everyone's mind, and the map belongs to Milk. They have the tempo advantage.
And another advantage they have just gotten is in the AD carry position. Infinity Edge completed, Yuntal's fully stacked. Toasty Alex going to be putting out a lot more damage than in previous fights, and it is Bork Gwynsu's, but that requires a decent amount of uptime to really start shredding through a lot of these members, especially when you consider the Crescent Guard is going to come through. Aurora can play back, and every single one of these fights has started with one team on the back foot. An early pick coming through these chaotic fights oftentimes mean that you're not going to have the best setup, as Manui gets a grounded, but we have all these TPs coming in.
Yeah, lots of CC on towards Manui. Both TPs arrive at the same time. Hoarder and Tenacity get involved in the battle in the back line. You can see it's trying to be fought out by Kizno, but he's going to get focused down by the remaining members of the team as Toasty and 5 Mini try to kite this one out, but Tenacity's all over him. Finally, the damage out of 5 Mini will let them finish it off, but Young joins back into the team fight. Ultimate available, executes on towards 5 Mini, tumbles back over to assist with Toasty, but Toasty trying his best to kite this one out. Duo King not going to have the damage to be able to stop him, and Toasty, quick on his feet, lands the double cast of the boomerang blade, flashing forward. Toasty Alex cleans up the fight on Sivir. A triple kill to him.
I'm trying not to say what I want to say, but God, I want to keep this guy, Toasty Alex, with an incredible save at the end of that. And it must have felt so liberating because he's throwing all these boomerangs into Brahm's shield, and Varus is on the other side of it with 1 HP, and he gets out of it. He dodges all of the winter spites, and despite Conviction's best effort to get the pick onto Manui, it looks like the perfect fight to give them a chance back at this game. But Toasty Alex, I don't care what lane he's supposed to be playing, on 80 carry Sivir, dominates and keeps Milk Esports in this position.
Toasty perhaps the top mid lane prospect in North America right now. And he shows that those mechanics do not go anywhere when you start playing off-roll. Terrifically played fight, bides his time, kites it out, dodges what he needs to dodge, and places those abilities perfectly. And now gives himself a massive injection of gold with those 3 kills to get a full-on Last Whisper and to have the tankiness to just play out these fights. Now brawling with Meech once again, but Meech has shown you in this game already he knows the thresholds better, and he wins the one-on-one.
I think it's the first time I've just, like, straight up laughed at I can't, like, there's so much praise going towards him deservedly, and then just maybe it's a little bit too confident, walks straight up into Meech's face, goes, hey, this guy's on hit, not the lethality, I'm not gonna get one shot, and then he gets one shot because Varus, with that blighted quiver up, still does a ton of damage. Not the end of the world. I mean, he didn't have the biggest shutdown on him at the time, but certainly is going to do some damage in terms of tempo, and actually might be doing a bit more damage. Please tell me that Tomio's not hitting that Baron right now.
Toasty's up, he starts it, but Manui going to be the target. Once again, cease and desist comes right through onto this Poppy, channels the ultimate, punts out Young, but dies to the Storm Surge regardless. And now will be a numbers advantage maintained for Conviction as finally Toasty arrives back to the fight. They get an angle onto Meech, and they one-shot him. Now Young looking to be able to get onto 5 Mini into the back line, but has already committed the ultimate, and now Toasty has space to just chuck boomerangs through the rest of the team. Hoarder charging forward, knowing that they have the full carry might of Milk at their backs, and 3 members of Conviction will fall, even in a 4v5.
I think only real... Oh, never mind. Toasty now in a bad... But there's no cease and desist. He can run them both down.
He is going to indeed do just that. Tenacity pops the counter-strike, but as soon as it's gone, in comes Toasty for the damage. AoE slow of the Otacon immediately puts Tomio at risk, and he's got to get the hell away from his opposing 80 carry. Toasty running the map. 3 items on Sivir, push and win.
All right, so as long as it's not Meech, Toasty's gonna smurf on anyone. But Meech is still the kryptonite for this Sivir. As we take a look at the gold, we're starting to get to that point, as teleport does come through from Young. We're starting to get to that point where gold starts to matter a little bit less and a little bit less as more and more items are completed once you start to get to that max build on some of these major carries. We are now focusing once again on the Baron. And I really think that what's slipping by the wayside as we're focusing so much on Toasty Alex because of these flashy plays is this Aurora is unbelievably fed right now. The ability to one-shot any target is there, ever present, and we saw it at the beginning of that turn from Conviction. It looked like they were going to have 2 members down, maybe able to finish that Baron quickly after the Manui pick, but 5 Mini immediately catching Meech out of position, blows them up in one spell rotation, and puts them back on even footing. Hoarder also 3 completed items, has the upgraded boots, has a component for that 4th item, and doesn't have flash. Might have thought he had an augment after that last fight, flashed forward for nothing, but now you see it. Toasty Alex completely taking members out of position with that Lord Dominic's Regard in inventory.
Yeah, losing this vision control is so tough for Conviction, right? They want to get in on this bottom side. They want to try to create opportunities for them to be able to contest this dragon. But if you find yourself face-to-face with Toasty as just the Vi, you're going to end up with a lot more than you bargained for. See how Tenacity is going to be able to handle this side lane. You really want your Jax to be able to win these sorts of matchups, but he's down a whole legendary item at this stage. And 5 Mini is just so powerful here that take these short trades, dance away from the Jax, and leave Tenacity without any options. Speaking of no options, Milk are going to look to potentially start up this Baron, clear out vision, and force Conviction to walk into them.
And they can take a fight right now. I mean, Kisno completes the Guardian Angel. That plus the Crescent Guard makes Xin Zhao such an incredible frontliner as well as damage dealer. It's why this champ has been so high presence all year long. Manui playing bouncer, no fear as they walk forward, has gotten caught out of position a couple of times, but they know that they got Hoarder in their back pocket. They start doing a lot of damage. Grounded Vi.
What a beautiful steadfast presence there. Stops Tomio, creates a fantastic between worlds angle for 5 Mini, and the damage is just too much to handle for Conviction's lineup. Tenacity stuck in a 1 versus 1 with 5 Mini, and you see why he can't take that side lane any further than he has. The lead for 5 Mini, just too much. 4 for 1 in favor of Milk, and they're going to get the Baron as their prize.
It's beautiful commitment out of Milk Esports, and it starts with something as little as Manui grounding Vi. They recognize, okay, there's no chance for the enemy jungler to get into the pit or out. If we turn now, we can get the kill, guarantee the Baron. Of course, they get so much more just off the strength of the Between Worlds as Aurora so far ahead, as we've been saying. now even on this top lane, Young trying to make a move onto Hoarder, but still has the Eclipse. Does so much damage on top of getting that security shield for themselves. And Hoarder, another player. That's what happens when you run away with a game like this. You have all these players able to shine, show off why they are such incredible must-watch talent in this region. And 5mini is in a bit of an awkward situation, but just hops across the veil. Though he's going forward.
Ooh, now siphoned off and into the back line goes 5mini, and they will happily collapse onto him on the opposite side of the Between Worlds. Gets some good damage, but loses his life for it. Let's see if Milk can make good on this. But Toasty was just a little bit too far away. Now Pop's on the hunt, trying to create an opportunity for them to extend the fight, for them to capitalize on these chunked out health bars, particularly on Meech, but it looks like all they're going to be able to do is start to crack open the base. They will be able to get themselves an inner turret, and they can move right onto the bottom here, even in a 4 versus 5. Tomio still hasn't been able to get back to the base, and he's already used the cease and desist. Tenacity now going to try to step forward and take this 5 versus 4. Kizno going to be the first target focused down. Young gets into the back line, looking to be able to execute Toasty Alex. The spell shield expires. In goes Young, but the damage from Toasty is just too much. Auto reset cuts him down mid-perfect execution. Inhibitor is claimed, and it is a 1-for-1 exchange for kills.
Young does get them low enough to the point where they have to back away, so saving the rest of their base. All 3 inhibitors do fall. On their last leg is Conviction Esports. And I don't know, this might be their only option back in, but Meech seems to have some sort of aura about him that makes the enemy Fed members just feed into him. 5mini at the beginning of that, just sprinting between worlds into the arms of each and every member of Conviction. And picking up that kill is Meech. Does have the old school on-hit Varus we saw earlier in the year with the Jack show, and it just gives you so much HP, survivability. We need to see extended fights, though. We're seeing these fights happen where Aurora annihilates a target in 1 second. That just doesn't give you the time necessary for you to get the stacks going, and here is another fight. Could be good for them. Never mind.
Yeah, Young has an isolated 5mini. Tomio melts down incredibly quickly, and now 5mini sees a chance, or rather Young does. Dives into the back line, gets himself an execute on towards Toasty, but 5mini still strong enough to continue that fight. Kizno rolling it out on the opposite side. Tenacity trying to advance forward, trying to get himself onto that carry, but Hoarder arrives, and Hoarder's still at full HP. Kizno fights his way through, back to back with Hoarder, and they finish off the kills that they need. Toasty finally executed, finally isolated, but it does not matter. Milk finish out the team fight and finish out game number 3. Match point to Milk Esports.
I mean, that's the problem when you get this far behind against a team with such stellar talent. They have a 45. They almost kill Manui right away. They almost, and then do kill Toasty, but Hoarder just rocks in with full HP, cleans up the fight, move in, end the game, and that's the thing about Milk Esports that makes me scared, is when they grab control like that, they do not let go, and they keep fighting over and over again. And when you pair that with such a good draft, you have a Sivir that is full build, able to just run through all of those team fights. If you get them down, well, Aurora got super fed early, so they can one-shot anyone, and then Hoarder comes through, who pretty much had just a passive laning phase, got to stack up, get items. What do you do in that situation when everyone is so far ahead?
Yeah, it's a tough position to be in. Let's wait to see what the analyst desk has to say about it. Great game number 3 from Milk, and they find themselves at match point. Back over to Orbital and Sneezes to break down how it happened.
Even with tenacity, it cannot stand up to Milk Esports. We're back on the desk after that thrilling game, game number 3 there. It was interesting, to say the least, but we saw some stars starting to shine, and it's our first game where it feels like the team that started out strong kept becoming stronger here throughout the entirety of the game.
Yeah, way less back and forth. I just want to shout out, Hoarder and 5mini, right? Mini had a kind of a tough game one. He's played way better at each game in the series as the series progressed. And this is like a coming out party game for him, right? You know, Hoarder is playing excellently. He's played against Sniper and Tenacity, and he's gotten the better of them both in this series. You know, this is what I want to see from like up and coming rising talent that, you know, these guys are going to be are NACL mainstays, and they're going to be like top of their role next year if they keep playing like this. So really exciting stuff. To me, this is like a huge forward indicator on these guys' trajectory. You know, sky's the limit.
Yeah, I mean, if we temper them just a wee bit, you know, maybe don't overstep sometimes, and you know, don't give someone a heart attack when you watch them go for an extra inhibitor and wave there. But 100% agree. These are players that have obviously shown that they can play, and for 5 Mini especially, having a struggle back in game number 1, shelling out now. Game number 1 actually got kind of run down a little bit on that Azir, and then every single time has stepped up, this time now culminating in Young being shut out on that Akali that was banned for 2 games straight. Very nice setup there. And we're going to see exactly how this kind of started. You mentioned Hoarder earlier, and it did feel like it steamrolled from good laning. Hoarder in the top side at about, I want to say about 12 or 11 minutes, 11 and a half minutes into the game, we saw where that gold lead kind of ran from.
Yeah, I really like this dive. I really like the jungle call. They're being patient on the cooldowns. They're waiting for Flash to burn before they burn their summoners. And, you know, Kisno probably thinks he lives this tower shot. It's a nice juggle of aggro, and this just breaks the game open. You know, Hoarder probably wants his death about a minute from now back. He kind of over pushes on the top side, but it's those little cleanup things that I want to see Hoarder do next year. But overall, his gameplay is excellent. He's playing really well, and to do this against like established veterans is not easy, and not something we see that often in, you know, these up and coming NACL players.
And that's what makes us really, really excited for the future as well, especially heading into the 2026 season just as well. These are players that everyone should have their eyes on, and probably have been for the last year or so as well. As we take a look a little bit later into the game, we see where Milk have kind of continued to keep themselves quite strong. This fight around, I believe the Otacon was quite interesting to watch for as well.
Yeah, and to me, this really highlights kind of how Conviction's been playing today. They're a little jumpy. They're kind of pulling the trigger too quickly, and they just don't have the patience, right? The Poppy ult takes care of the Meech, the ADC, but Tenacity's still fighting a 1v2 on the other side. So we're down numbers on both sides of this fight. The timing of this fight is all off, and Milk Esports just capitalizes brilliantly off this Poppy ult. Manu is playing awesome. He gets a stun here, a block, basically a double kill. This is like a brilliant play from Manui to keep his carries going. And Toasty, this is his first gold injection as an AD this series, and he doesn't he doesn't give it up. Like I don't know if it's our next fight or not, but he has some very cool fights where he's pushing the limit off of that gold injection.
Yeah, we're talking about a guy that literally walked in here is like, I'm a sub, dude. I don't play
not an ADC
very
player.
often. Yeah, he's stepping in here, and you know, we have to kind of critique it every time we see a sub step in. Like, that is our job here as an analyst test to talk about these things, because it does influence the game. Whenever a player is coming in not on their main role, it's going to affect the series. So to see Toasty be able to step up and have this kind of performance as well behind the likes of Hoarder and 5 Mini, who also had an exceptional game, when we get to see someone like Toasty literally just walk someone through a lot of these fights. Some of these fights went on for like 45 seconds, and then Toasty pops up with a random 3K. I don't think it's going to happen here, but we do have a fight at about 30 minutes, which was right before the Baron, where we saw probably the cleanest fight of the game. You see here Manui kind of running interference, and then 5 Mini says it's over.
Yeah, I really like the flank angle. Milk has excellent vision coverage here. They're walking CNV into a choke, into a really bad position, using the Baron as bait. They have 2 on the Baron, 3 on the turn. This, you know, we call this Turner. You know, most teams call it a Turner burn, but I hate that because they sound the same in comms. So we say Turner finish, and this is a turn angle for sure. And the setup is brilliant. The execution is even better. So I love it. Very like. That's the kind of thing you look at in a VOD and say, nice job, guys. We really nailed this concept.
Yeah, it's nice to watch the team kind of come together at the very end here for Milk Esports, and especially stepping into the series. There were a couple question marks after that game number one. We all sat there going, hey, they know how to play the game. Are they going to be able to execute the plays that they want? And they've now shown us in both instances. They can fight, they can scrap, but they can execute a play when necessary. Now, looking at game number four, they're on the cusp of reaching for that grand finals berth and being able to watch the likes of Conviction fight in the lower bracket and in that lower seating position. So Sneezes now taking a look, questions abound. Conviction have now lost 2 in a row where they have had side selection for one of them, and they say, okay, what are we gonna do from here?
I don't think it's a game plan issue. I think the drafts have been fine and playable. I actually kind of favored them in the last draft because it's just so much more difficult to execute the Milk's comp, and to their credit, they did. I think they just need to calm down. I think they need to relax, play a little slower, be more mindful about the basics, like play up numbers, play with your jungle hovering or with your support hovering if you're going to make a play in lane. So I think it's just like a light reset. Just take a deep breath and just play like very classic League of Legends, because Milk's playing really well, but I do think CNV, if they look at these VODs, they would want a lot of these plays back.
Well, right now they might be doing so as we get Conviction over on the blue side. Last time they were on the red, it didn't work out as well. Now they got to look at this position where 30 champions are gone, very high priority champions as well. We see the Orianna gone, we see the Aatrox gone, we see the likes of the Kiana, and now we're going to start digging into a little bit of that bag. You were talking about it before, Sneezes, where we do have to identify this is where some of those unique picks might come out. Yes, they're still meta, but it's not perfect. We have to look into that bag of what are you comfortable either giving away or utilizing for yourself, because it's not going to be perfect. This is where you got to grab those rough edge bricks and still build a house out of.
Yeah, and the jungle pool here is getting really pinched. No Zinzao, no Vi. I think we could see a Jarvan. We could see, and even no Jace. We've seen some Jace jungle, and I know Jace got picked top, but Fearless doesn't care where it got picked. So I think like Trundle, Jarvan, Pantheon are probably the top available. And then we're seeing a lot of Rumble bans this year. I think that's going to stay. But Rumble, Cassante, Talia for mid. I don't know if these guys are Mel players. Maybe Fi Mini. I don't think so, but I'd look at the Mel. We'll see. We'll probably see something interesting. Like there's also a good like Yon Sejuani angle, or a good I don't know, like TF Lee Sin. Like I don't love that, but you get what I'm saying. Like find an interesting pairing that you can play through. And I like that CNV is sticking with the Victor ban. Like don't let Toasty Alex get comfortable, because he's already playing well enough on these off-roll champions. Don't give him Victor. Like yeah, I like it.
Yeah, don't want to give the one guy that also stepped up in that previous game a chance to shine even more. And for Conviction, I'm not just looking at the bans, I'm looking at this first pick option. You pick blue side, red side obviously didn't work with the counter picks. You have to have some sort of idea in your head of how you're going to turn this around. And it goes back to what we talked about in games 1 and 2. For Conviction, their drafts have actually been really, really solid. And we want to see that come out again with maybe a little bit harsher identification on these champions that might not be as easy to look at and easy to play in your bank. For Milk, still looking at that Nidalee, still saying, hey, we can't deal with that one. And there's the Nico, still denied from this series.
Yeah, we're running out of engaged champions too. That's the thing. That's I found from like 2 years of Fearless now, like 2 splits of Fearless, because NACL got an early start. The engaged support champions tend to like dwindle as these series go on. It's I think we're left with like Leona, Rel, Nico, Bard, like, and Bard's not even really engaged, but like it's really tough when all these supports are out to like build a pilotable comp, because engaged typically has to come from somewhere, and it's usually like jungle or support. And a lot of standard comps. So maybe like the Ornn or something if you really need to engage. But these top laners, the way they're playing, I don't want to see either of them on Ornn, to be honest.
I would agree with that one. Listen, Ornn is boring in my opinion. It's just there, you know what it's gonna do. Same with Malphite, although I loved my big rock. It is painful to watch and to just see played out, because you know what's going to happen. Rumble still banned away, as you mentioned. Some of these champions just stay permabanned there, and we're not going to get it unless we dive into. I'm actually kind of curious. I do want to double check this later. I don't know if the ACL has it, but
we don't remove the bans on game 5.
No, we don't. Okay, perfect.
That was
So
older
still,
thing. That was last year. Yeah.
yes. Okay, so still banned out. Perfect. That's great. Zyra still banned away as well. This has been adopted here and kept by Milk for the last few games.
Yeah, Milk's gonna keep doing what they're doing. I really like it.
Yeah.
I like that they're not blinking. You know, they have a game to burn, but you want to close, right? Like when if I'm coaching from this position, I'm telling the guys like, look, draft is whatever. We have a game to burn. If we mess up, no problem. But let's close the series right now. I don't want to go to game 5. Like, so
I don't think anyone
B1
does.
Jarvan. Okay, yeah.
Hey,
No Poppy. There you go. Yep. I think you got to take the Talia. Conviction is going to have a counter for Talia prepped, but I don't like giving Talia Jarvan, so I think you take Talia and like whatever you like in a Jarvan. I think like Talia Trundle is fine, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean,
I've been about the Talia and no one's picking it, so maybe I don't know. Maybe
I was about to say we floated, I think, all the way through game 3. It was open the entire time. Would have matched really well with the Xin Zhao, and Milk are just like, we don't care. However,
I like the
what was
Corki.
banned away? Yeah, what was banned away before though is this Corki, and now being picked up blind, just saying we got to go ahead and grab it, and especially because of the safety mechanic built in, especially against the J4, you got to recognize CNV are probably going to draft another easy to execute, catch that carry, and try and walk away with it.
No Yunara, no Kaisa, no Varus. I really like the Corki here. It'll be interesting to see what Conviction pick. You know, a lot of teams will go Sivir. Maybe they go scaling. Cho'Gath. It could be Cho'Gath jungle. Honestly, I know it sounds crazy, but it could be Cho'Gath jungle.
So the worst part is as I actually know a few people that like running Cho'Gath jungle, just because, you know, you get free stacking, and if it's in the bank, you have to, right? Like if you got it, you don't really have a choice. Is it great? I'm not going to comment on that. I don't want to mention what my buddies' ranks are, but if it works, it works.
No, I've seen it here and there. I don't know. It could also just be mid, like they're anticipating it's the Leah pick or something. I don't know why they picked Cho'Gath here, but you know, hey, if they're cooking, you know, they're up 2-1. Who am I to question? I like that.
Or just flex it. We posted just now to 3 different ways, and hey, you can put it wherever you want to, and it still hides your pick, and that actually forces out another safe ADC. We've gone from having some of the more aggressive ADCs, as you mentioned, the Yunara, you know, the Varus, the Kaisa, the Sivir, some of these that can really get in there. We've now stayed away from that. The Corki is staying away a little bit further, you know, as an attack damage carry. The Ezreal playing safe, making sure to have that arcane shift away from whatever CC Milk Esports is trying to throw down. I wonder if they're going to do the same with this mid lane. CNV still have to draft one more. Are you going to go for for maybe a top here? I don't know. Are you going to go for a support to match with the Ezreal? A lot of options open.
Yeah, we'll see. I think you slam support here personally, but
Oh,
LeBlanc, okay, a young special. So.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I can dig it. I personally really like LeBlanc. I will always like LeBlanc players because throwback.
I bet this is 5-minute show. I bet this is 5-minute show.
I'm terrified of that, honestly. But I will say for Young, who has had a little bit of a struggle lately, it's interesting. No, they say you're wrong. Sneezes.
They say
they heard you. They heard you, man. They're like, no, we're not doing that. We're playing strong.
Yeah, no, this is great. I think Cork. You know, I don't know where this show is playing. I'm giving up. It could be any of the 3 roles left. Top jungle or support. Without Senna, I don't think it's support, but like, who knows? What do I know? I really like the Mel here. You have a lot of space now. Like Jarvan has a really hard time playing into Corki and Mel. Other than like ganking the Mel, it's just I think the Jarvan LeBlanc combo is a lot weaker if Mel can land her roots.
Yeah. I will actually say the LeBlanc actually has a decent time into a Mel if played correctly. If you're playing aggressive, if you get a little help from the jungle, you can actually shut down a Mel. I think in the early game, you have a lot of good jumps and they can't rebuttal everything. So I do wonder how it's going to work, and if this LeBlanc is able to inspire Young to get back in the series. As we mentioned, 5-Mini has stepped up in this series a lot. Young has kind of dropped off a little bit. The Akali didn't look great in the early stages, and it was kind of handed over. So we want to see Young get back on that horse as best as possible. Renata Glass and Nami, though, taking away a lot of that safety once again, making sure that Ezreal is alone when they're trying to run away.
I would guess that there's a blind coming from Milk at support, just because they're hard banning out. So I don't know why the Nami, because of the Ezreal, but they have something in mind. They have something in mind.
Yeah.
So we'll see. It'll be interesting. And the double top ban for CNV, the Gwen and the Yorick is a lot of respect. Yeah, the Leona. Okay. Yeah, disengage that your Leona has an easy time. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it also leans into the fact that I think CNV is also giving a lot of respect to Hoarder now at this point as well. We mentioned the fact that, you know, you had Sniper and Tenacity both step in, and now recognizing that Cho'Gath, no way. You're going to give a lot of respect. Milk now doing the exact same and saying, we want Hoarder to succeed. Let's go ahead and use that R5, which you and I both sit there and always say, we want impact with our R5. We want some fun in there to really throw down. And we got the Camille B4. Let's see what Milk are cooking at the very end. A lot of engage, a couple that might be a little bit squishy to deal with. Come on, Milk, give us something surprising. Give Hoarder some fun here at the end.
I'm wondering what they're going to pick into the Camille. It's very interesting. The Gnar, classic pick. Yeah. Gnar's not that strong right now, but I think it's fine. I think it's for lane. It's not.
Yeah.
I think it's hard into Ezreal and hard into LeBlanc, but it's really so that you can side lane effectively. So I don't hate it.
Well, and also into a Camille and J4, who you know are going to jump on your carries. Hey, it might buy you a little time as well. So
confirmed Cho jungle, by the way.
Yeah, listen, we're not going to talk about it. We'll let it go to the wayside. Granted, for the side of Kisno, they've had a magical time in this series so far. So I got to ask you, Sneezes, whose composition are you liking a little bit more right now? You've been leaning Conviction's way for most.
I have been leaning Conviction. I do like the mid jungle pairing of Jarvan, LeBlanc, and especially with the Camille, the top side's very strong. But I think Milk takes it here. I really like that they're on a comfort champion for Toasty, even though it's an ADC, it's Corki. The champion he's really proficient in, and another I think they have like the tools to fight, and I think Mini Toasty can carry the game.
Ooh, okay. I like giving that love over there. The Cho'Gath in the back line, Kisno might be able to have a really good game this time around as well. Top side, obviously Hoarder might be doing some work. For CNV though, where does their win lie? Of course, for a squad that has shown up in game number 1, they falter very heavily, and I know the first line is don't be as aggressive, be a bit more disciplined. What else do they need at this point?
They need to flank. This composition cannot play front to back. The Ezreal is probably going to be fine by himself, but you have to play angles. You want LeBlanc over walls, you want Camille jumping people over walls. Like, make the Mel and Corki have a hard time because they're looking at all directions, wondering when they're going to get jumped by like Jarvan Camille. So I think they have the tools to play flanks. It's a little harder to execute, but if they can get picks ahead of objectives or summoners ahead of objectives, then they can fight 5v5.
I can agree with that one, and does lean into the fact that we do need to see a lot of love coming out of Tomio. You touched on it very lightly, and I think, with the flank angles, it's going to stem from Tomio somehow getting an advantage here. J4, in my opinion, especially if you're picking a B1, needs to have a lot of proactivity in the early stages. You want to be influencing these lanes. You want to be gaining, this LeBlanc advantage. I will always use the term whenever I talk about jungle mids quite well, is I want the battery to work, and I use this a lot when it came to Vi Ari in the past. It was one of my favorite pieces, but if you can get the J4 and the LeBlanc roaming, if you can make them a kill squad, that idea that you just said, Sneeze, that idea of hopping over the wall, keeping pressure up, that becomes a very stark reality that Milk has to deal with. So with that being said, and I'm sorry for running a little bit over time with my yapping, we'll go ahead and toss it over for game number 4 between Conviction and Milk Esports, as Milk Esports looks to put the third bow on top of their Christmas present. Gordo and Jack, take it away.
Thank you very much, Orbital and Sneezes, for holding it down throughout the draft. We are live with game number 4. Milk Esports 1 win away from a ticket to the grand finals and a locked-in spot in top 2. A loss here for Conviction would not eliminate them. It would send them to the lower finals to play after our break. This will be perhaps the last game of ACL before the holidays, before we get to 2026. Already have word that Maryville did win up against Dorado, although the score looks completely impossible. It says 5-0. So I am going to double check that. And I'm going to have some time to double check it too as we're getting into a pause, Jack.
Perfect. And actually fully prepared to vent for a little bit because I want to piggyback off of two things that were said by our incredible analysts. First of all, I just want to say some justice for Gnar. I know it's kind of boring, but I love this champ. So when all the air got let out of the desk when that got picked, it hurt my heart a little bit. But also, I want to really credit, obviously there's a reason that they were a very accomplished coach. Sneezes picking up on Conviction's need to play angles, to play flanks. It's something that they've drafted for almost every single game, and yet consistently have struggled to do. Even that last game, you've got Jack Sakali, and the only angles they were hunting down were just diving through the front line to the back line, taking so much damage to do so. By the time they get on top of Toasty, by the time they get on top of 5mini, they're already dead. So identifying that right away is a huge need for Conviction. And I feel like they have better tools this game. They have simpler tools. You've got Cataclysm, Hextech Ultimatum. Those are very simple lockdown abilities. Mel can be a big target here. And 5mini showing a huge rebound in the last game, but has struggled in some earlier performances this series. So both teams wanting to win this series, wanting to avoid the extra Bo5, especially against whether it's Maryville or Dorado, because both those teams are very strong and going to be very battle-tested after a 5-game series.
Yeah, so quick correction. The sheet is a bit cooked. Dorado won in a 5-game series up against Maryville. So Maryville eliminated in 4th place. Dorado are waiting in the lower final to play against the loser of this series. Yeah, something seems to have gone wrong in the match history bot. It lists both teams as Maryville, and so it lists the series as a Maryville 5-0. Norm, you didn't help me on this one. I'll give you credit when you deserve it, but I'll have you know I went digging through match history to learn that to learn what the real result was. So this time it goes to me. That final game was won by K, Dardock, Ajun, Sushi, and Bounty for a Dorado win. So Maryville will bow out in 4th. Congratulations to them on a great run, especially given that they did have a couple of players kidnapped by higher levels of play while they were playing in this tournament. Dorado White locks in top 3. We'll be waiting for the loser here. With that said, we're just waiting around here for a little bit until this pause can be resolved. It looks like there was a bit of a disconnect on one of our players, so we will get back into that one before long. But happy to report on some news from around the rest of the ACL. All in all, go ahead, Jack. Yeah,
As you're saying, with it being Dorado, the squad that's been a little bit more consistent, K being that only listed sub, and whether it's him or Ariana, both of them complete that lineup so well, has so many players that are not only huge prospects, but veterans. And as I said, both of these teams are going to want to avoid not only another Bo5 to claim the ACL Fall Championship, but also just want to avoid having to go through all of those extra games. Sure, it will test you as a lineup, give you some more practice, but there's no amount of practice that is going to overshine only having 3 more games necessary to win that title, win that prize money, and also just have the massive accolade of capping off this first tier 2 splits, first tier 2 year of ACL.
Yeah, I mean we've always gotten some participants from tier 2 over in the fall split, but this one's been great. And we get to keep our streak alive of sending players directly from fall ACL to LCS, and feels good every time, and going to be a great cap to the year, even though the finals will be played in 2026. I'll still take it. still going to be happy to see how the rest of this bracket shakes out, as our final 3 teams all going to be very, very good. Well, we'll wait and see who is going to be making it to the grand finals here. Milk 1 win away from doing it. I repeat once again. And already going to be Duo King looking to play some aggressive rel here, brings in the crash down, push back Toasty, Alex, and Manui.
I'm really hoping that based off of Kizno's Keystone, this is going to be a Chobe Gath build more akin to what we saw earlier in the season, going for some more support-oriented items. Creates a very interesting playstyle. Being in the jungle means you can skip out on that hollowed Radiance most likely and get some more either tank or some more damage. Gives you even more flexibility than the build already had. And I am also worried at the same time because of how well Kizno's performed each and every game of this series, now going on a champion that is going to be much more reliant on the rest of the team to get ahead and to make plays off their back. But as we say, Conviction has, their most flank necessary team comp they've drafted so far. I feel like for Milk Esports, this is the best front to back comp they've drafted so far. Such easy to execute team fights. We'll hopefully see in Toasty Alex on a huge comfort pick, and about to see our first gank right now.
Yeah, really nice ankle there from Manui with the Zenith Blade. Gets in onto Meech. Meech blinks away, but he is right in position to hold down Duo King. First blood goes the way of Toasty on the Corki, a champion he's played plenty of in the mid lane, and he is off to the races in game number 4.
And that's the type of decision making that should make you terrified if you're on Conviction. They could have easily said, all right, Rupture didn't land. Let's just walk out of here. We got the flash, or we got the heal off of Rel. We trade heal for heal, no problem. But you see the flash come through from Kizno. They land everything. Valkyrie forward for Toasty Alex. They made sure that play was successful. They got the most out of it possible. And that's how they've been winning throughout this series, is by going all in, not flinching, no miscommunications. Toasty getting quite low and no mana. This could be dangerous if he turns it.
Yeah, gonna be tough to be able to fight back here without the mana, the Phos Bomb and stuff, so he is going to back on away. Meech gonna be able to keep on that pressure as he continues to push into the bottom lane. And I's gonna be on the mid lane here. I mean, this is a very signature pick for Young. And I know I said that about his Akali as well, and things didn't work out too well for him in that game, but he is, I think, at his core, an assassin player. Loves to be able to get out of these sorts of champions. The LeBlanc, one that he's done very, very well with in competitive historically. And as the champion pool gets more and more pinched, having access to signature picks like that becomes a lot more valuable. I want to see how well he's going to be able to navigate this lane up against 5 many. He's going to be ticking up to level 6 here before too long. Really going to unlock his roaming potential at that point.
And Mel is a very strong champ. Once you get to this point in Fearless, works as a control mage, wave clears quite effectively, but can also put out mountains of damage come the mid game, come the team fighting phase on these objectives. Has that rebuttal, not able to proc it in that trade, so going to take quite a lot of damage. And finally, we'll see Young at a bit of an advantage here in this matchup. And I think, not to overlook this game, but if Conviction pull this off, if we go to Silver Scrapes, there is still quite a few aggressive mid lane options available. Silas hasn't really seen bans this series, and I know it's gotten tuned a bit to be one of those flex jungle champions, but with what's up and available, the fact that Malphite is another champion that is strong in the jungle late in these series because of the recent buffs, I'm obviously not thinking that they're going to pick it into it, but that being available as long Zenith Blade comes through.
Once again, it's the engage onto Meech. He's going to be forced to shift and flash back away, and Duo King going to be the one who takes the majority of the damage for this engage. Toasty Manui still finding good angles to play aggressively as the stronger early game bot lane duo, and a nice early stun, or rather silence onto Tenacity from Kizno, guarantees that he is going to be able to land the Rupture, guarantees that a Hoarder is going to be able to land the Gnar, and gives Kizno the second kill of the game.
Can you imagine that they were upset about Gnar getting picked? This champ is so fun and really well played on top of that by Hoarder. Obviously, once that silence lands from Cho'Gath, it makes it so hard for Camille to utilize their escape plan, their escape tool, that hook shot. And then once they finally do deploy it, Hoarder hops right on top to follow it up and make sure that Camille can't jump off on that second activation of the ability. Gnar right at the full range of it, and with that assist as the Doran's blade now and completing that back again, opting to be very safe, very smart, as they have all series long, going for those bladed steel caps. Does get a long sword and works towards that Caulfield's Warhammer. So going back into this lane, the advantage is going to be even greater, and does look like we're going to be getting an interesting build out of Cho'Gath, as that Hextech Alternator is going to be the first pickup. I
wonder if that's a Rocket Belt, and it's just going to be like AP one-shot Cho'Gath. That's my guess. I would have expected a Shurelya's or something. I figure that's still the build that you can go. Just loves CDR and movement speed on this champion. Maybe he will still end up with one eventually, but wants to get a little bit more upfront damage for his troubles. Hoarder just getting some great trades on Tenacity with these hyper procs, even though there's 4 members coming to try to gank him. Can he get away in time? Needs to transform. Oh my god, the damage is just ridiculous, and Hoarder cannot become mega fast enough. Quick kill for Conviction.
Yeah, the Avengers head topside. They said, Hoarder, you might have gotten a clean kill onto Tenacity, but you know, we subbed him back in for a reason. We're going to support our top laner, and no one gets a move off of Tenacity without a response. Is
that even worth it? Like, they lose so
no,
much.
not at all. Not at all. But it was so cool. They also lose Dragon. But you know, it's that type of team camaraderie you need when you're down. It's series point. You don't want to have to go into those lower bracket finals up against a Dorado Gaming squad stacked with talent. So you want to feel like you're in it together, and they are going to get an early start on these grubs, and Young able to play bouncer and keep Manui from posturing up there. But looks like the answer for Kizno is going to be enemy Raptors, which is a pretty decent prize for the Cho'Gath.
Yeah, I mean, they just... Listen, Tenacity had better make some damn good use of these grubs, let me tell you. Because, yes, you just forfeited a lot of money cross-map to get a kill on a Hoarder and to get these grubs. So, eyes on Tenacity for most of this game. Nice stun found on a Toasty. They also interrupt him out of the Valkyrie, and Meech and Duo King will just clean up that kill. Manui trying to make the trade even, heals himself to be able to get inside of range. Meanwhile, Tenacity collapsed onto the bottom lane. Kizno gonna be able to get another kill, but Meech looking to chase down Manui and get himself even more gold. Make that a 2-0 Ezreal for Meech.
He's making off best of anyone in these cross-map skirmishes. Kizno actually also getting all of the kills on these Tenacity ganks, has that proto belt fully completed. In other positions, though, once this Triforce comes through on Meech, Ezreal often called the most honest champion in the game, and Tozy going aggressive, no mana on Jarvan.
Tomio! Oh no, not gonna be able to get off of the wall there or over it, and now Meech left out to dry as well. Kind of just has a Leona chasing him all the way down, and that's gonna be a second kill going the way of Toasty.
Yeah, and Corki, let's move away from what Jarvan happened there. Corki, one of these champions that I feel like because it's shifted from the mid lane to the AD carry position, people have lost sight of how well it scales and how much damage this champ can really put out. It's seen more of just like a passive caster AD carry that no one puts too much thought into. But if you get accelerated, if you get past Triforce Manamune and are able to get into some of these other items, whether it be more, you know, bruiser-esque stuff or you index into crit, this is a champion that come 25 minutes can shred through your entire team. And as a Conviction squad that has drafted a team comp that necessitates finding pockets of vision to play in, finding areas of darkness to jump out from, if the Corki can't be just killed in one shot and blows you up in an instant with a Spellblade auto attack and some rockets, it makes it even more difficult for a lineup that has proven not completely able to play this style just yet.
No, not at all. And Tenacity getting under pressure once again here. Milk recognizing that Tenacity seems to be what they are playing for. Granted, Meech putting himself in a good position as well off of those 2 kills they picked up topside, but they have a lot of beef to put between an Ezreal and the rest of the team, between this Cho'Gath and this Leona and even the Gnar. Not to mention Mel reflecting True Shot Barrage back in towards them. It's going to be difficult to make this Ezreal kind of solo carry pick in this game. Instead, it's going to have to be their ability to make picks with this Jarvan and this LeBlanc, and then the power that this Camille's going to have in the side lane that has been kept down pretty effectively so far. Even that lead they were able to build from killing Hoarder earlier on has largely evaporated CS-wise, and Tenacity can get it pushed back yet again.
Have had a bit of a reset across the map. Everyone just getting in position for our second dragon of the game. Later dragons this game than in the previous. You see Ocean about to be up and available, and Hoarder completely dominating this top lane matchup, waiting for that adaptive defense shield to drop. And do some very key item completions. Hextech Companion for LeBlanc should be packing quite a punch if they can land a combo onto someone. Haven't seen them really get the opportunity to find a target, except for 5mini now caught out.
Beautiful solar flare there from Manui. Manages to pick up on towards Tomio. Tomio trying to slide away, gets a Cataclysm onto Hoarder, but the follow-up damage will not present itself. And now the rest of Conviction, they might have over-pushed here. They're coming down the river, and immediately Kisno going to pull the trigger. Gets on top of Meech, but Meech is going to be able to kite out and stay alive, and it's going to be Tenacity who finishes off the kill on towards Kisno. Big shutdown gold for the Camille, but a flash forward with the root and the slow from 5mini will hold down 3 and let Milk clean up the rest. 3 kills to Milk.
I mean, that is the level of commitment that we were so concerned about earlier for Conviction. An enormous rupture lands onto Ezreal and Rel after Ezreal already used the arcane shift, and Kisno does go forward very aggressive before the rest of the team can connect and does go down, but the rest of his teammates go through, they expend their own flashes, they push forward and they grab those kills. They aren't able to get the dragon. So I think this is an opportunity for Conviction to take advantage of tempo and even up the score, but they've got to do it quick because 5mini is in the area, has a Blackfire Torch, and can do a ton of damage if they aren't pushed off here. It looks like they are just going to play it safe, head back to their dragon, and Rift Herald will be the new priority for Milk Esports.
No, starting off onto that Herald. Tenacity sees him doing it, but don't quite have the backup of the team yet. That announcement across the map that the dragon's been slain does mean that Tomio gonna start to move his way up here. Manui and Toasty covering it for now, and does look like Kisno did back away from that Rift Herald, so well done by Tenacity, kind of fending him away in and of himself, and the rest of Milk going to group up together to try to have a second go at it.
They are moving up here.
Wow, Tomio.
Not having taken yet. Manui way
Right
forward.
into Manui. Yeah, Manui going to dive even further back, going to try to push back Meech on the other side, but taking a lot of damage for his troubles. Huge engage from Duo King as Magnet Storm finds its way on towards 4, but he is going to lose his life for the trouble. 1-for-1 support for support. Flashing from Order! A massive Gnar onto the remaining members of Conviction, and Milk Esports just funnel it all into Toasty. A triple kill for him off Hoarder's snap engage.
I mean, what a better... I mean, how better can you display prospect of the year than a play like that against the team he started the year on? Just destroys all of them. 5mini getting young extremely low, and Toasty Alex looking to get that last kill on the beach, but just can't quite line it up. I mean, again, I will call back once again. There were audible sighs when this champ was locked in, but Gnar truly is one of the most exciting players in my opinion. And for 1 second, if we look at the scoreboard and say, oh, Gnar, that was a great play. This Corki that we mentioned earlier, 7-1-3, has finished both their Muramana and Triforce. Moving on to now further items, obviously. Swifty Boots also in inventory. Toasty, if he doesn't get killed in these fights quickly, with Cho'Gath building more HP, Gnar is about to complete a second item, get a lot of HP. Leona is moving on to a tank item past Redemption. I mean, if Mel gets targeted ever first, Toasty is going to tear through these team fights.
Absolutely will. And has been very silent throughout this game, 5 mini, but that would have been a sick kill if he was able to get it off the rebuttal into the golden eclipse. But still has been absorbing the pressure from Young quite nicely, and now Young gonna have to dive deeper in here, trying to buy some time for the rest of the team to come in and respond. Cataclysm in onto 5 mini, nowhere left to go for him. He will be falling down before too long. That kill gonna go over to Tomio. Now Kizno locked down. Tomio gets the knock up onto 2, trying to work their way through the tanky Cho'Gath. They will eventually be able to finish him off. Costs Duo King his life, but that is worth it for Conviction as they clean up 2 kills. Now over the wall, Meech trying to duke it out with Toasty, but Toasty's on a 2-level advantage. Not to mention the items nearly able to trade back onto him. Toasty will be able to finish on off the turret. Now Manui trying to defend a turret of his own, but Young and Tomio, they've got quite a bit of damage between the two of them. I think they'll be able to
ramped
do it.
up though.
Yeah, there's another Zenith Blade in. Young is just waiting on his cooldowns, and yeah, there goes Manui. Meanwhile, Meech collapsed on the opposite side. Hoarder gonna be the one who finishes off that kill. Toasty getting chased by Tenacity. He's about to drop to a tactical sweep. Huge shutdown gold over to Tenacity, and Hoarder left up too far. This Camille could be able to finish him off, just trying to buy a little bit of time for Tomio to be able to come on through. Tomio arrives to the scene, slows him down with the golden Aegis. There's the tactical sweep. There's the shutdown for Tomio. And just like that, Conviction even up the gold.
Oh, and the places it went to are just awful for Milk Esports. One near 1,000 gold shutdown into Tenacity's pocket. Another near 1,000 gold shutdown into Tomio's pocket. This Jarvan about to start packing a massive punch. Camille gets some much needed gold to help their side lane pressure. Young's really been holding it down in terms of being on the side lane, protecting turrets. I thought that that play on the bottom lane would have ended up disastrous. They commit a ton of members, sure. They get kills, sure. They get the turret, yes. But they were losing out on their mid lane outer. Their top lane tier 2 was under threat. Hoarder ends up moving to help secure the mid lane turret and get a kill on Meech. But they turn it around. Great execution on the back end of that fight for Conviction. And this gives them not only breathing room in terms of a tempo, but it also ties them in the gold score, which is incredibly necessary when you have these assassin type, these diver type champions like LeBlanc, Camille. You have to get ahead to push your advantage. And, you know, Gnar is going to be useful despite gold because of the kit. Mel is going to be useful despite the kit because of all of these abilities, the rebuttal. So you've got to find fights now, and that's exactly the opposite of what you want to be doing.
That's an absolute one-shot onto Tenacity. The damage out of Toasty, way too much for that Camille to deal with without any additional shielding or support. And Tenacity being gone just opens up this map so much for Milk. And they're about to find Duo King as well. Hoarder stuck in a 1 versus 2, but he's going to be able to retreat away. And the rest of the squad coming in to defend him. Duo King tanking up turret right off the back. Going to fall down nice and easy. Tomio tries to flag and drag away. Meech has to retreat behind enemy lines, but he's getting poked and picked apart by 5 mini and Toasty the whole way back. Milk clean up 3.
I mean, that is the perfect display of what this team comp can do. They have these long-range damage champions that they just have to get space for. Hoarder buys so much time in the mid lane, and then Manui and Kizno push forward. They have so much CC in their kits. And then it's just Mel and Corki laying down damage at range. The rockets, the radiant volleys coming through, and Hoarder TPing down here just to say that he was here, he was a part of it, as Kizno will get another stack They don't go for the dragon right away, but Hoarder is now here in case they want to turn on it once they maybe reset, fix these waves just a bit, because Young is going to push in bottom. And actually, there's another tempo dragon picked up for Conviction. Really don't want to be giving over too many of these. You want to be able to kind of have that easy soul as your way to end the game, but now down in the Total Dragon store.
Yeah, tough position there. Young tries to get in on a 5 mini. Luckily for him, Golden Eclipse not quite available. And now Manui might be the one who's caught out. Hextech Ultimatum comes on through. Nowhere for this Leona left to go. And Tomio will clean up the kill. But now here come the collapsing members of Milk. 5 mini on the side. Jumped onto by Tenacity. He does have that Golden Eclipse back and available, by the way. So keep an eye on how much damage he's able to stack up. Toasty Alex going to get jumped onto over the wall. Tomio finds him with the Cataclysm. Loses his own life, but does give that kill over to Meech. Tenacity now trying to kite back away. Duo King caught away from the rest of the team. Has to dodge away from the Rupture. Kizno pumping in a lot of damage on the opposite side, but it is a 3 versus 2. That's a one-shot on Duo King from the likes of Kinzo, doing a lot with that Devour, but the return damage from Tenacity and Meech is significant. Golden Eclipse comes through from Phi Mini, and he is able to take down both. Young finally hunts down Kizno, and he's gonna hunt down Phi Mini the exact same way. Now has to get himself away from Hoarder, jumps back away, but the Hyper Proc is enough for Milk. And Hoarder will close out what is a full ace for Milk Esports.
Such an extended fight. It starts with them utilizing their ultimates, Conviction that is, to the fullest extent, using the Hextech Ultimatum to find the kill onto Manui, who has gotten caught out repeatedly throughout the course of this series. Then they use the Cataclysm to find Toasty Alex. But in the end of the fight, you see it's just Kizno 5 mini in the 2v3. Mel pumping out so much damage, and in the very end, Blue Buff, the ultimate homie, tanking so many Mystic shots for Phi Mini, making it so they can get that final kill onto Ezreal, pick up the buff as well. Order respawns after being the first to go down. And as you said, across the map, ace and 24 about minutes into the game. No objectives up for a minute until we get that Baron, and then it's another about 3 until Dragon spawns. Massive gold leads in the jungle or in the mid lane, excuse me, for Young, in the bottom lane for Toasty Alex. And you see, again, Milk Esports looking for a collapse here.
Yeah, look, trying to find this engage. Kizno going to be able to find the knock-up, or not quite. Duo King able to flash away in time. And now will be a TP cross map from Tenacity to get away from the collapsing members of Milk.
They're pushing in mid lane. Very good job by Meech to apply pressure on response to that play. Toasty Alex caught.
Oh, jump on through. It is going to be multiple knockups found by Tomio, and the damage from Meech is significant. Jumps back over the wall. It's a 2-for-2 exchange so far, and having picked off both Phi Mini and Toasty makes this very good for Conviction as they get themselves control over the map, even in the 3-on-3.
Yeah, see, it's a 2-for-2, but the 2 kills that Conviction get are 1,000 times more valuable. Essentially, all of the damage for Milk Esports gone. Hoarder, the only remaining member who can really put out a consistent amount there, and is going to have to back out now with Meganar being active. You want that still available if you're going to fight for something. Young playing so well on one of their best picks, showing why you want to index into this later in series. When the amount of control mages gets lower and lower, you're able to give them over, pick up some of these aggressive assassin types yourself. And when you're proficient on them, you can really take over entire games, because as we're seeing, Hextech Ultimatum and Cataclysm really end Toasty's chances of performing in these team fights. But Young is able to get rid of the other damage member if Camille and Jarvan target Toasty Alex, or even if they went to target Phi Mini. Having the Camille into Corki is so strong, because even if the Cataclysm goes down and that Valkyrie comes out, you still have the Hextech Ultimatum. There's no Valkyrie to get out of that. If they really optimize how they're taking these fights, it could be curtains. And a game that we felt was so strongly in Milk Esports' hands, everything in their favor, including scaling, could start to really fall apart. The cracks are showing in their team comp.
Really are. And Milk, a chance to be able to close this one out. now starting to slip away from them of back-to-back poor fights up against Conviction. Manui looking for the engage now, throws out the Solar Flare, only gets a slow on a Duo King, and the rest of the squad gonna be waiting for him over the wall. Jumps forward onto Young, Young forced to retreat. Here's a double knockup coming through from Tomio, and meanwhile Meech just layering through the damage, but Hoarder jumps into the backside, gets on top of him. Tomio's already fallen down. Toasty gonna be able to finish off Young. Toasty untouched in the fight, able to kill off the rest of the front line. Meech was hunted down by Hoarder, and Milk find their fight.
The commitment we praised earlier returns. They see Tenacity bottom lane, no teleport available. They chase them down across the river and don't even give them the opportunity to turn onto them. Toasty Alex actually Valkyrie'd in to assassinate the LeBlanc. No chance of putting out enough damage to take out those tanky members on the front line for Milk Esports. Another cross-map ace, and Milk Esports, as soon as we doubted them, get one step closer to advancing to the ACL finals.
Closer and closer. Milk now looking right back in control. A very well played fight from them. Toasty able to create his space immediately. Manui doesn't land everything perfectly, but he knows they have a favorable fight angle, and he just keeps on forcing it. Now Milk going to be able to secure themselves their second dragon if they want it, but I think they're more interested in the inside track onto this inner turret.
Yeah, and with no vision on that dragon for Conviction, they do have vision on Manui right now, but they don't know if someone's back there. I think they have a pretty good idea because they see everyone, but I think this is the correct decision. And for Milk Esports, they've only got one dragon, as Duo King is just gonna walk up and die.
Yeah, caught up, but does get the Magnet Storm onto two. Tenacity goes in there with the Hextech Ultimatum, trying to keep the fight going. They will finally be able to get onto Manui as Tomio throws himself to the back line, and here's Young on the flank to be able to execute onto Mini. But Toasty is still the big threat here, and Kisno is waiting to be able to protect him. Gonna get the knockup onto Tomio as soon as he respawns off of that Guardian Angel, and now Young is the last one alive. We'll be in a standoff with Toasty while Hoarder works on the base, and this might just be it. Toasty loses out on the one-on-one. Young able to execute him, but there's still two tanky members of Milk left banging on the Nexus doors, and there's still 20 seconds to go until anybody's gonna be able to help him out. The minion wave is just too big. Young can't do anything about it, and Milk Esports will advance themselves to the ACL Grand Finals.
Enormous congratulations and praise to Milk Esports with a sub in their 80 carry position. They only falter slightly throughout the course of this series, but it really felt like seamless, the way that they were able to close out some of these games once they gained advantages. And I think on top of that ability to pull the trigger I kept mentioning, the fact that they would do these fights and lose, and it's like, all right, well, the other team is caught up, gold's even, we've lost our advantage, and then they just come right back. They immediately take advantage of opportunities that we're even missing. Like, I didn't see Tenacity bot side, but they clearly saw it. They run all the way across the mid lane and grab those kills. This is a team that I think everyone should be terrified to have to go up against.
Yeah, definitely should be here. And I mean, they are looking like they could win back-to-back ACL titles, would be the first team to ever do it. And what a squad to be able to do it with, right? Levitate became the first player to win 2 ACL titles with his win last split. And he might take it right into 3 if he, of course, comes back to the lineup. And if Milk are able to find their win in the new year once they do play that grand finals matchup. That's not the end of the road for Conviction, though. They will play up against Dorado White in the lower finals. That will be on the Monday when we come back from break. It'll be in the new year. And then, of course, the grand final will be on the Friday. We're going to throw it back over to the analyst desk to chat about that game first. Take it away, guys.
You know what? You love it. And for all the Milk fans out there, go ahead and raise your glasses because Milk have made it to the grand finals. Milk Esports, after a very convincing last few games. Game 1 obviously gave us a few hiccups, but by game 4, Sneezes, they looked very much in control, whether stemming from really strong individual fights to team fights to digging themselves out of a hole. It felt like they all stepped up in one way or another.
Yeah, and it felt like they were really prepared for Conviction's plan, right? Like we talked about going into the series, Conviction had to get flanks, Conviction had to create upnumbered fights because they had, they either have to poke you down or get a pick ahead of 5v5. And to Milk Esports credit, you have some young players on this roster, in Hoarder and Fimini, who could have been targeted, could have been exposed, but they weren't. They played phenomenally. So, props to them. We'll get to MVP a little later, but I thought the young guys in this roster had a really nice showing, and it's just unfair to give Toasty Alex Corky. Like, this guy's so good at so many champions. We're basically giving him a mid lane champion in the bot lane. Like, he had such a good series as an ADC, but just playing Corky in the last game, like, feels super good. So well done for Toasty.
Yeah, I mean, this is a player that has been also touted as, a huge person to keep your eyes on, right? Like, we have to give credit where credit is due there as well. Stepping into shoes that, some people might look upon and critique him, but did very well. And then, of course, the rest of the team stepped up at the very end. For us, though, there was one player that really just shelled out. It felt like Hoarder stepped up in what felt like every single game throughout, no matter against Sniper or against Tenacity, even here in game number 4 on this Gnar. Beautiful work in there.
Yeah, I really like when a player takes the 5th pick in the draft and wins the game with it, right? Like, Gnar was really good. Gnar was really strong. I think he had a really good plan. His execution in the fights was great. He ran down LeBlanc or Ezreal several times. I thought he just had a phenomenal series. I would have pegged Hoarder to go toe to toe with some of these veteran guys, but to just outright carry the game and the way he's doing it has just been excellent. This replay is this was one of the later replays, but I think it's like a theme that we saw from Conviction here was just picks ahead of objectives. I think Drake's about to spawn. It's just really unfortunate that the setup on these flanks didn't work, and we got some awkward fights from Conviction later in the series because Milk was ready for those flanks and those setups.
Yeah, what you didn't see in that replay was a resounding 2 kills afterwards, where we saw Milk actually chase into the jungle, and it just cascaded from there. It really echoes what we saw in, I think, games 2 and 3, where Kizno was also stepping up, making these picks happen, and Milk just kind of swept up a very weak Conviction. As weird as that sounds, or as funny as that sounds, as it kind of just tumbled and continued to roll on into this chaotic fashion. We have another replay at about 1540 where we saw kind of the full weight of this kind of chaotic nature come about, because we know Conviction can play well. We know that they can play a lot of these moves, and that we know that they can pilot the champions. We see it here where it felt like Conviction had a spark to at least start a team fight.
Yeah, and I think that initial fight take is good. Manui's a little disconnected over extended duo king with an excellent engage, but just watch Hoarder's patience here. He's playing with fire. He knows if he can get all 4 in range, and just this flash ult to stun 4 into his combo, wall up 3. Like, this was MVP play in my book. So, I appreciate as a coach when a player is patient and can make that snap decision that can win you the game. So, it was an awesome fight from Hoarder, and honestly, like, could have gone the other way, but he just outplayed everybody.
Yeah, and that's the kind of performance that you do want. We mentioned before that Hoarder sometimes gives us a little bit of a scare, stepping up a little bit, testing the limits of how much they can get away with. But listen, you got to do that if you want to be a star at the right times. And it's why we keep praising this player who has stepped up throughout. And again, from those fights, even though it wasn't always kills, it was small steps that increased that gold lead, that increased Milk Esports performance throughout this entire game, that blended into this team fight win at about 26.5 minutes into the game.
Yeah, this was another one of, like, they know that they can take this fight. Manui is, like, willing to die for the fight. Conviction actually gets a good setup here with the Jarvan ult. But unfortunately, you're hitting Cho'Gath and Leona, and these carries are just free firing, right? Hoarder and Toasty Alex are just running everyone over. So, again, I thought damage distribution was really good for Milk. They're putting the carries under a lot of pressure, and Yeah, it looked a little awkward because the initiation was so far, but they knew they could close the fight and they did. And that fight basically won them the game. Like the game was over after that.
Yep. At that point, it was the cascade and the fallout of how hard Milk Esports worked in that game to accrue that lead, and that's what we love to see off the back of Hoarder, as well as everyone. I think everyone in this series played an amazing job. But Hoarder stepping up throughout the entirety of the series has landed Hoarder our MVP of this winners finals, and I think it's well deserved. Of course, 5mini stepping up from game number 1 and increasingly getting better was a very close second. Kizno obviously game 2 stormed the way with
Kizno
that Wukong, but it was awesome to see either way. Hoarder, really, really well done. Final words here, Sneezes, on the day.
Yeah, this was a team win. Everyone had their moments, right? Like we had a really hard time picking MVP, but for me, it was Hoarder because he's a younger player. He's coming up, and he's going head to head against 2 veterans and coming out on top. So, congrats, Hoarder.
Yeah, and well deserved as well. With that being said, though, we do get an interview with one of the players coming in from the squad of Milk Esports, who have now given themselves a very slight break heading into that grand finals. They will get to watch all the players play below. And from my eyes and ears, we do have Manui on the desk with Gordo and Jack. So go ahead and take it away.
Welcome back, everybody, to tonight's broadcast of the ACL, where we're going to close things out with the recently qualified to Grand Finals Milk Esports, Manui. Manui, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, want to start things off with talking about swapping back over to support. So you won the last ACL with Milk, playing top lane with them. Now with Cryogen moving on, and you guys pick up Hoarder to go into top, you're back over in support. I think, if I recall correctly, we talked a bit last split about how you were looking to kind of keep support as your role going forward in your career. Is that still, or is that at all where things sit with you right now?
Yeah, of course. My split on top wasn't like ever going to be a long-term thing. It was just for that split because I wasn't playing an ACL.
Good stuff. Good stuff. I think you're muted, Jack. I see you talking, but I cannot hear
Thank you very much. The thing I wanted to ask about most, and I think what shines the most when you're back on support, is your synergy with jungle, with Kizno in these games. How is that working out in comms, maybe even as far back as draft stage, when you two are planning out how you're going to affect the map early in these games to get you guys the leads that help you win?
I think it's really important. Well, there's not really that much comms. It's more like I'm always looking at jungle and what he wants to do. So like I'm kind of visualizing what his next steps are going to be, and then if I'm not sure, I'll ask him, and then I'll try to follow his lead because I think we're in a meta, or the game is currently like in a space where jungle should be allowed to full clear most of the time without dropping too much CS. Because if you do, then it's not going to be great for the game. So I kind of just play off of what he wants to do and try to like just match his clearing and stuff.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So you guys, as we talked about a little bit earlier, you guys are running back a lot of the same lineup that you played with last split. You're playing against some of the top players in NACL here in some of these matches, right? Conviction, a couple of former LCS players that they bust out up against you today. You guys in your run as well. I know also you're playing against Dorado White, and we're able to take them down too with a lot of players that are in the NACL right now. Do you guys do you feel like you've built up a synergy over the previous split, or do you think that you guys are just better players and you're coming out with a lot more individual victories?
I think we're all, well, the milk team, everyone's like known each other for a pretty long time, 2 or 3 years now, so we're all friends. And I think we're at a point where like the scene's motivation and people's like will to play the game kind of is like way lower, and like it just feels like the people who were good are not that good anymore. And I won't say like we're improving at a rapid pace, but we're definitely improving. It's just I don't think the other people are also improving. So then it makes it feel like the people who were once good are not that great anymore. So it's not like anything synergy wise. It's just like I think we all understand how to play the game a bit better now. So yeah.
Yeah, and I want to, building on that synergy and what you guys have been able to do not only last split but going into this split, what would it mean to you being able to be the first back-to-back champs in ACL, now having played top last time, support this time, bring in new players, and throughout the run having some subs, obviously Toasty in today. What would that mean for you going into next year?
Well, I mean, I'm currently just doing school, and like League is kind of my side thing now. I can't really commit to it being fully, so like it would be nice to know that at the very least I'm still able to at least compete with a lot of these players, or like even be better than them, despite me being like pretty much half. Like we aren't really scrimming that. We scrimmed once this entire split too, so like it'll be like a good showing like what we can be if we do scrim. I mean, I'm sure these other teams aren't really scrimming either, so it just maybe just shows our baseline is just better than theirs, and with time and if we actually become a team or something in an ACL, then we'll just be better than them. Yeah.
It's great to hear. Well, love to hear from you, Manui, as always. I do want to give the last word over to you. Anything you want to shout out? Anything you want to say before we close out the stream for the night?
Shout out to Milk Esports. Honestly, these guys, our owner, Vega, and then Pikachu, they're all like super goated staff people. Working with them for the 2 splits has been an absolute blast, and you guys should check out the combine they're running. Yeah. So yeah, and then shout out to the guys. They played well today. Yeah.
Here, thank you very much, Manui. Always a pleasure having you on, and best of luck in the grand finals in the new year. Once we find out who your opponent is going to be. Reminder to everybody, we're going to take a break for a bit for the holidays. We will be back in the new year to see Conviction versus Dorado White, and then the winner of that face off against Milk in the grand finals. Big shout out to those on the analyst desk, Orbital and Sneezes. Really appreciated having them on today. And from myself, Jack, and Caddy on production. You guys have yourselves a great holidays, and we will see you next time. Happy birthday, Jack, as well. Love having you here on your birthday, man.
Thank you so much.
Bro, just use Zen Market.